I planned to marry the future demon boss. The Hall of Supreme Harmony felt totally suffocating. My imperial father sat on his throne. His majestic voice weighed so heavily on the officials that every head bowed in submission. Speak now, or this session is adjourned. I called out to my father, my tone sounding a little lazy against the heavy silence of the room. Your son has one request. All the officials in the hall could not help sneaking looks at me. Wearing a luxurious black robe embroidered with cloud patterns, I stood firmly at the very front of the line. My imperial father, the man everyone called the Fifth because of his birth order, silently opened his eyes just a fraction. The rhythmic tapping of his finger against the armrest stopped. He gave his order speak. My loud reply rang clearly across the hall. I wish to marry Yili Yan, daughter of General Yi. I humbly request your imperial blessing for this match. Dead silence. The kind of quiet that actually feels like a graveyard. On my right, Duke Yates had been totally fast asleep. The second he heard his son and granddaughter mentioned, his eyes snapped completely open. Suddenly, the dead quiet hall erupted into frantic whispers. Someone muttered, Prince Chu wants to marry that cursed girl. The other princes avoid her like the literal plague. Who knows what he actually went through during those 5 years away? Maybe he wants the Yi family influence. Watch your tongue. Duke Yates snapped his head around, his voice a rough and furious snarl. Who cares so much about my granddaughter? Why not come say that to my face? The room went freezing cold. Every whisper died instantly. The emperor stared as I held my bow. He called his sixth son. I answered steadily, your servant is here. He approved my request without even blinking. Glancing at the old eunuch beside him, he called for Miao Dong, who immediately bowed. This servant will draft the decree right away. The emperor just waved his hand in the air, ending the session and dismissing everyone. The old eunuch flicked his whisk, shouting in a sharp, duck-like voice, session adjourned. The officials were completely stunned. They just stared at him in utter shock. The emperor actually let that cursed girl into the royal family, giving them zero time to even object. Honestly, even I was pretty stunned. He agreed just like that. It was incredibly direct. I had prepped multiple speeches to argue with those manipulative civil officials, but I did not even get a single chance to use them. Duke Yates gave me a long, searching look, a faint smirk playing on his lips. I bowed respectfully and quietly left the hall. But once outside, I became the undisputed star of the show. Princes and ministers immediately crowded around me from all sides. Some gave congratulations, others dropped cold insults. I really did not care. I smiled at everyone. It was a pretty good day. Humming a little tune, I strolled toward the palace gates. My real name is Lin Yuan. Well, in this life, I am Shunyan, Prince of Chu. I got isekai'd into this novel, went to sleep one night and woke up in a womb. When I opened my eyes, I was the great Qin Emperor's sixth son. People here call me Old Sixth. It is a solid status, but just thinking about fighting my brothers for the throne gives me a massive migraine. If I stay a powerless prince, who knows if the winner might just execute me later. So back then I came up with 3 plans. Plan 1, become a child prodigy, win my father over, and fight for the throne. Plan 2, use modern knowledge to get filthy rich, hide my true strength, and wait for an opening. The third plan was the simplest. Make massive money, train secret guards, then run far away. The world is huge. With cash and bodyguards, I can live like a king absolutely anywhere. But after living in luxury for a bit, I realized something truly terrifying. Every single name around me felt incredibly familiar. This was not just some random historical reality. This was the cultivation manhwa world I read on a shady site in my past life. And I, Shunyan, was the main male lead. The plot was completely insane. There were 5 or 6 male leads, but only one heroine and a single villainess. The heroine, Gu Ri, was a marquis's long-lost daughter. In the actual book, she acted like a walking human magnet for men. Every guy who saw her, myself included, was supposed to completely lose their minds and fall madly in love. Then there was the villainess, Yili Yan. She was born with pale blue eyes. In this world, that was seen as a demonic sign, a terrible omen. Literally everyone feared her except me. In the original storyline, we met as kids. I had told her those eyes were incredibly beautiful. That was the first time anyone had ever praised her, and that tiny spark morphed into a dark, deep obsession. But then the plot suddenly turned incredibly tragic. The original me fell for the heroine, driving Yi Lan crazy with jealousy. She became a literal demon boss trying to destroy the dynasty. The ending was a total disaster. Everyone got their happily ever after, except for the villainess. She died by my sword. Then the heroine, backed by all her male lovers, became the first empress holding a different family name. Looking back on it now, I honestly cannot believe I actually finished reading that absolute trash. Since I know the plot well, I will never follow it. Anyone can be the male lead. I am completely out. As for the heroine, if you want to follow her, the road is yours. But me, I am marrying the girl who only sees me. They call her a monster. Fine, say it to my face. I stayed quiet for years. Facing my father makes me slightly tense, but I fear no one else. Prince of Chu, a voice suddenly called out. It was Yance. She caught up and bowed deeply. I smiled and said, General Yi. He cut me off. No, I should be thanking you, Your Highness. The voice was so calm now, nothing like the lion roaring in the hall earlier. I waved the praise away. I made Lian a promise years ago, and I never break my word. Yance froze, then smiled. Have you eaten breakfast yet? We could eat together. Apparently, a new tea house opened in the northern market. I asked if he had visited it yet, but he just sighed heavily. Ashamed to say, I rarely leave home except for court. Age makes me lazy. I told him not to worry, I hadn't been there either. Let us go see what the hype is about. He laughed then. Your Highness can show this old man how the world looks today. Strolling the northern market, I took in the old buildings lining the street. 5 whole years away, I cracked a faint smile. The capital changed so much I barely even recognize it. Yance could not hold back anymore. If I may ask, where did you vanish to for 5 years? I chuckled softly. At 13, I left a single note and completely disappeared from the palace. My father was furious. He flipped the entire Great Qin dynasty upside down trying to track me down. But I simply vanished. My trail went completely cold at 13, leaving just that one stray note. The emperor, my own father, mobilized the entire state machine of Great Qin just to find me. The manhunt never stopped for 5 straight years. Then, just as suddenly as I left, I returned to Tianwu City. The uproar was absolutely massive. After being locked up in the palace for half a year, I was no longer just some runaway prince. My father crowned me Prince of Chu, a title carrying massive prestige. That kind of open favoritism made everyone nervous. The emperor was still in his prime. The throne wasn't open yet, but people were already picking sides. My sudden return just muddied those political waters. So what did I do for 5 years? I echoed Yance, staring up at the vast blue sky. I stepped into the martial arts world, met people, fought countless battles, found treasures, carved my own path, and took a hard look at the world. I smiled modestly. But the truth was far too deep to wrap up in a few simple stories. Yance laughed, stroking his beard. A strict military man, yes, but he tasted that wandering martial artist life back in his youth. That martial world is truly vast, he said, eyes gleaming with passion. If I were young and burden-free, I would be out there right now, horse and sword ready. Tell me, Your Highness, was it fun? Way more fun than Tianwu City, I replied quietly. Then we both just burst into laughter. Across the city, in a quiet pavilion by the lake, the vibe was totally different. A stringed instrument drifted through the air, clear and sharp, like a blade slicing a deep gorge. Lian sat there, skin pale as frost, looking like a goddess descended to earth. Mesmerizing eyes, long dark hair fluttering in the spring breeze, her fingers dancing lightly across the instrument's strings. Wow, a maid whispered from the bank, my lady's skill just keeps getting better. A taller maid shot back proudly, oh, this is nothing. You should have seen her play when birds gathered around, and fish were literally leaping out of the water. Inshu, Lian called out, her voice icy. Both maids rushed over. Lian stood up, a black silk ribbon covering her eyes, hiding a gaze that sparkled like stars. Help me back, she ordered, walking toward her study. Then she asked, is my grandfather back yet? Not yet, my lady, Jinshu replied. He usually returns from the royal court right around this time. Something delayed him. I will wait then, Lian whispered. Back at the market, I handed 2 wooden boxes to Yance's royal guards. They were packed with hot tea and snacks from that new shop. Take these with you, General, I insisted. Let Lian taste them while they are fresh. I am heading out. Yance smiled, I will expect your visit soon. But once he left, I turned to the shop owner, how is business? He bowed deeply, booming, thanks to your highness. Good. If General Yi comes in again, refuses money, just tell him I already covered the tab. I left the tea house for my palace. My head butler greeted me at the gate, a massive man with a thick beard and a thunderous voice. His name was Min Du. When he shouts, neighbors probably think a storm is coming. He roared out, your highness, you have returned. Min Du? I groaned, rubbing my ringing ear, keep your voice down. He flushed red and apologized. Go wait in the study and bring Zhonghai with you. So minutes later, I was sitting in my study, relaxing on a simple leather chair I designed myself. Min Du stood before me alongside Zhonghai, my trusted guard commander. Zhonghai was intensely focused, dark skin, with a long blade hanging ready at his waist. I spoke up, Min Du, what news do we have from the city gates? Just as you predicted, your highness. A carriage arrived this morning, heading straight for Marquis Wu Ying's estate. Guorui, I whispered. The gears of the story had finally started turning. Guorui showing up at the Marquis's estate was just the spark. Soon she'd catch the eye of every prince and noble, starting a huge chain reaction. I didn't care about her, but I desperately needed to know the exact timeline. I told him to keep watching the Marquis. Shangyi, I added lots of eyes on my estate lately. Clear them out. As you command, your highness, Shangyi replied. The moment they left, a cloud of black mist pooled in the corner of the room. The thin man in a bronze mask stepped out. Enze. Barely surprised, I asked him straight out, what did you find there? I sipped my tea. Enze reported in a rough voice, the withered northern elder left Evernight City, and Chu is tracking him now. The cold smile tugged at my lips. I really thought that old dog would hide for a lot longer. The withered northern elder was a high-ranking official in the demonic sect. In the original plot, he was the one who pushed Yili Yan into darkness. He wanted her spiritual eyes. It wasn't some curse or disease, but a massive and rare gift, the kind that shows up exactly once every 1,000 years. He possessed the latent power to become a goddess or a demon. The elder wanted to completely shatter her soul, awakening her demonic eyes, so she'd become the perfect vessel for the demonic sex leader. To pull that off, he had to strip away everything. Her family, her reputation, even the person she loved. But something about this just didn't add up. If the demonic sect could track her using secret arts, why didn't the living immortal of the Great Qin Empire find her first? State Preceptor Lin Yuan could supposedly calculate anything under the sun. So why did he stay completely silent about her from the day she was born? I hadn't even met the old man yet, but I would uncover the truth. I leaned back, my mind racing. What exactly was the Shun family planning for Yili Yan? I refused to believe they were totally clueless. It was entirely impossible. My grandfather's attitude today made it crystal clear he knew the truth. The royal family cared about their reputation more than anything. Without a specific reason, why would they let me marry a woman everyone treats like a literal curse? I thought about this for a long time, but eventually I just gave up. My grandfather's mind was a twisted maze. I wasn't solving it today. I'd deal with that bridge when I crossed it. Right now, I had a much more urgent problem. The cold, sharp killing intent flared in my eyes. The withered northern elder will definitely cross Tianmen Pass. I stared at the corner, ordering him to have Tielin and the others set an ambush and to go with them. Not let that old dog escape. Enza bowed his blank, masked face then faded straight into the shadows. News spreads like lightning in the capital. By the end of morning court, all of Tianwu City was buzzing with gossip. It wasn't just about me being crowned King Chu anymore. No, the real bombshell came from a sudden request I made in front of every official. Did you hear? King Chu just asked the emperor for permission to marry. To which family is the lucky lady from? Someone asks. Keep your voice down. Another replies she's the Duke of Jin's daughter. That cursed girl? Has King Chu gone insane? The rumors ran completely wild. Some even said I had lost my mind entirely. Others whispered that despite the heavy curse, Yili Yan possessed unparalleled beauty. The common folks, though, were pretty skeptical. In their minds, any lady from a military family couldn't possibly be a delicate, refined poet. They pictured someone more like Marka Doning's niece. A 9-foot-tall woman wrestling wild bears with her bare hands. They honestly assumed I was just marrying a giant in a dress. Meanwhile, over at the Eastern Palace where the Crown Prince lived, a thin wisp of incense smoke drifted slowly into the air. The eunuch announced, "The 5th prince is here to see you, your highness." Crown Prince Shen Moqin slowly opened his eyes. Cold and completely composed, he adjusted his purple sleeves. Then he ordered him to enter. "Big brother, why do you always burn this stuff? Doesn't it choke you?" The voice echoed in before the man even appeared. Shen Tongfeng, dressed in fiery red robes, waved away the smoke while walking toward the bed. Shen Moqin sat up, clearly annoyed. "What do you want this time?" Rubbing his hands together, Shen Tongfeng smiled with the slyness of a fox. "I am here to help solve your problems, brother." Shen Moqin frowned. "What problems are you talking about? Morning court, weren't you there? The 6th prince wants to marry that cursed girl from the Ye family." Shen Moqin didn't even blink. "That's his business," he replied. "Why are you so worked up? Don't tell me you fell for her too." Shen Tongfeng waved his hands frantically in denial, insisting he had never even seen her face. "Those rumors, I took the long route just to avoid the Duke's estate." "No way, brother. I'm looking out for your interests." Resting his head on his hand, Shen Moqin sighed. "Go on then." Shen Tongfeng coughed lightly, rubbing his fingers together. "How much is this advice worth? 500 silver pieces?" "No, 300. He watched his brother's face, quickly correcting himself. 200 is enough. Shen Moqin called the eunuch to escort him out. "Wait," he yelled, 100. "Only 100 silver pieces, brother. It wouldn't let me starve out there, right?" Shen Muqing sighed, raising his hand. "Speak." Shen Tongfeng's face instantly lit up. "If the 6th marries that girl, he secures the entire Yi family's support. Sure, she's cursed, but you can never underestimate the Yi family's military influence. The Duke is a veteran of 2 eras and a former Grand Marshal. With a heavyweight like that backing him, aren't you threatened?" Shen Muqing asked with pure ice. "Why would I be?" "Aren't you afraid?" Shen Muqing cut him off with a glare so chilling, it froze the words right in Shen Tongfeng's throat. "What did I tell you before? Some things need to stay buried deep inside you, never spoken out loud." Shen Tongfeng muttered, scratching his head. "I just meant we really need to ruin this wedding." He needed his brother to stay on top to fund his playboy lifestyle. Shen Muqing stood up slowly. "The imperial decree has already been issued. There is absolutely no going back, unless you want to tell our father he made a mistake." Shen Tongfeng paled, waving his hands frantically. "Absolutely impossible. Father would skin me alive." Shen Muqing stepped closer, quietly patting his brother's shoulder. "Next time you need money, just ask. Stop making excuses and try acting responsibly. Maybe our father will actually grant you a title someday. Maybe then you can finally leave the palace." Shen Tongfeng grumbled. "I really do try, but father docks my allowance every single month. I am broke and starving. How am I supposed to behave? Stop visiting brothels and stirring up trouble." Shen Muqing snapped in annoyance. "Hai Chan, get him his money and throw him out immediately." Across the city at the Duke of Jin's estate, a high-ranking eunuch named Su arrived carrying a golden scroll, surrounded by a small army of escort guards. The maid Yili Yan whispered anxiously, "My lady, why are there so many palace people here?" "Stay calm," Yili Yan muttered, her voice trembling slightly. Then Duke Taiyan stepped forward, cupping his hands. Manager Su offered a fake, slimy smile. "Congratulations, Duke. Please receive the decree." The entire household knelt. Su read aloud, "By imperial order, Yili Yan, General Yun's daughter, is recognized for her extraordinary virtue and grace. To honor her family, she's officially betrothed to King Chu as princess consort." Yili Yan took the scroll. "I offer my thanks and accept the decree." Beside him, Yili Yan's body was shaking violently. Manager Su shot her a look. People called her a curse, but even with that black silk ribbon covering her eyes, her beauty was undeniable. He finally understood why any prince would want her. Duke called out softly, "Ah Fu." The estate manager stepped up, skillfully slipping a heavy pouch of silver into Su's hand. Duke said a little something for tea. Su's eyes practically became tiny slits from his massive grin. "I'll take my leave now. Congratulations again." Once the palace officials were completely gone, the Duke spat on the ground in disgust. "Old eunuch dog." He hated playing nice with those people, but today he was actually in a great mood. "My lady, are you all right?" Jin Shu cried out anxiously. The Duke turned around and froze. The black silk ribbon over Yili Yan's eyes was completely soaked. Two wet streaks stained her cheeks. "Yili Yan, what's wrong?" Yili Yan shook her head quickly, leaning on her maids. "Nothing, grandfather. I'm just so happy." The Duke had told her something good would happen today, but she never imagined this. The man she thought about endlessly, day and night, was finally coming for her. But right then, years of pain morphed into a raging flood of tears she couldn't hold back anymore. Her grandfather, the Duke watched her with a heavy, aching heart. He had lived a long life, but seeing his poor granddaughter finally find a good home was all he needed to die without regrets. Meanwhile, back at my own palace, the servant came running in, panting heavily. "Your Highness, the fifth prince is here to see you. He says he came to offer his warmest congratulations." "Offering congratulations?" I shook my head, smiling to myself. He is probably just here to beg for more money. In Tianwu City, from the emperor down to the street beggars, everyone knew the fifth prince, Shen Tongfeng's reputation. He was a notoriously shameless scoundrel. I told the servant to bring him to the garden immediately, heading for the pavilion to wait. I ordered tea and snacks. Sitting there, I remembered Shen Tongfeng is the original story's second male lead. Don't let his playful, stubborn attitude completely fool you. The fact that he can navigate the treacherous waters between princes and ministers clearly proves he's far from ordinary. "Sixth brother," he yelled loudly, before even stepping foot inside the courtyard. A fiery red blur blew past the servant like a ghost, sprinting straight toward me. I stood up, smiling. "Fifth brother, what wind brought you here today?" "I am here to congratulate you." Of course, he laughed loudly, making himself entirely at home. "So when is the big day?" "I need to know so I can come drink your wedding wine and soak up some of that really good luck." I stared pointedly at his empty hands. "You came to congratulate me empty-handed." He looked slightly flustered, rubbing his clothes awkwardly. "Sixth brother, you know how it is. Royal father is always docking my allowance. I am totally broke right now, but I swear I will make it up to you when you marry." I answered him calmly, "Just having you here is enough. The brotherhood does not need to be proven with material things." That response seemed to make him feel significantly more embarrassed. "I definitely came here to borrow, or rather scam, some money." I gestured for him to sit. "Try these. The fresh snacks from Hashang Pavilion. I figured we could enjoy them together." He stared at the delicate pastries on the stone table, gulping hard. "Sixth brother, you are truly living the high life. These snacks must cost a solid 100 taels of silver." Ever since Hashang Pavilion blew up, they became the ultimate obsession for all the elites across Tianwu City. They sell out instantly, and prices for new items are completely astronomical. I told him, "You must be joking." I happen to know a master friendly with the owner, so I got these free. Gripping his teacup, eyes wide with curiosity, he asked, "Which master?" "Who?" "Our imperial father." Shen Tongfeng whipped his head around, spitting a massive mouthful of tea straight onto the grass. The Shang Pavilion treats were incredibly famous, mostly because the imperial concubines absolutely adored them. The palace was easily their biggest client. "Our imperial father gave you these." He looked utterly shocked, like he just saw a ghost. "Did you not get any?" I blinked, faking complete innocence. I figured everyone got a share. "Yesterday, a red-robed eunuch delivered an entire cartful straight to my gate." Shen Tongfeng clutched his chest. He lived inside the palace, yet never saw a single crumb. Does our father hate him that much? Or just forget he even existed? Venting his sheer frustration, he aggressively stuffed pastries into his mouth like a man seeking revenge. He choked multiple times, yet absolutely refused to stop. They tasted sweet, but his heart was incredibly bitter. I offered, "If you love them that much, just take the rest home with you. I cannot finish them all anyway." "Oh, sixth brother, you are far too kind to me." Wiping his mouth, he looked genuinely touched. "Never worry. If you need anything, just ask. I will always have your back." After making his grand promises, He left the estate hauling a massive bag of snacks. But walking past a casino, those familiar gamblers shouting made him freeze completely. To wait, did he not? How did he end up leaving with just a bag of food? He muttered furiously, damn it, old Sixth absolutely played me. Staring at the snacks, he realized he desperately needed a sucker to buy them. Spotting a youth in luxurious silk robes, he immediately lunged and grabbed his arm. He called out, hey brother, you clearly have refined taste. I have rare Hashang Pavilion snacks here. 500 taels, and they are completely yours. The total steal. The young man glared at him like an idiot, shoved his hand away and snapped, are you sick? So where did this lunatic come from? A massive slap echoed. Shen Tongfeng's smile twisted into something predatory. He backhanded him hard, then flashed his golden imperial waist badge. Look very closely at who you just insulted. Do you understand the penalty for offending royalty? I'll ask again. 500 taels, buying or not? He stammered, you are the fifth prince. Clutching his swollen cheek, the youth turned completely pale. Just insulted me. You completely understand the situation, right? Looking close to tears, the youth pleaded, your highness, I only have 200 taels. He replied calmly, no worries. I love making new friends. Today you are my close friend. Come, let's have a sincere heart-to-heart. Wrapping an arm around his shoulder, Shen Tongfeng dragged him off, flashing a completely crazed smile. He expected to hook a tiny fish, but somehow caught a fat sheep instead. Upon returning to the palace, I summoned my guard, Mindo. I ordered heads straight to Hashang Pavilion. Bring back some fresh snacks and a fruitcake. Mindo hesitated, is that all, your highness? Are we heading to the duke's estate? I replied, that is it. Oh, and take this with you. Show this to the owner, he will know exactly what to do. I tossed him a black iron token. After he left, I sat by the chessboard, closing my eyes. Releasing my spiritual sense, I let it drift outward until it suddenly struck some invisible wall. I was still pretty far from reaching the next cultivation realm. Rumor says at the highest level, a person's mind can travel 10,000 miles in one single instant. The original plot of this world was now just a fleeting reference. The future was completely unknown, yet with enough strength, I never had to fear that darkness. It finally arrived, I whispered without even opening my eyes. Care for a quick round? A man in long, loose black robes materialized and bowed respectfully. Fuxing greets your highness. Fuxing commanded the Shadow Guard, a highly classified force I founded myself. They were exclusively orphans I personally raised, alongside incredibly talented outcasts I managed to recruit. Not a massive army, but absolutely enough to protect the people I truly care about. So wordlessly, he sat across from me, placing a black stone on the board. Smiling calmly, I countered him with a white stone. Later that afternoon, while my carriage crossed the streets, my guard Shanghai approached the window. Your highness, someone is definitely following us. His hand tightly gripped his sword hilt. He had already cleared the spies around the palace, yet a fresh group just showed up. From inside the carriage, I replied, do not worry about them. Someone else will handle it. Seems those old royal court geezers finally lost their patience. Ever since I left the palace, they have tracked my every little move. Even for a bathroom trip, they sent low-level thugs to test the waters. Just like flies, if you don't swat them immediately, they just keep swarming around you. I lifted the curtain slightly and peeked at a pitch-black alley we were just passing. From the thick shadows, I heard the faint, sharp sound of blades tearing cold flesh. Right after, the metallic scent of blood slowly filled the air. Fuxing faded back into the dark alley. I quietly closed the carriage curtain, my hand completely steady. This is Tianwu City, right under the Emperor's nose. People die here every single day just to serve the powerful. The cold and brutal reality. Zhang Hai called out, your highness, we have finally arrived at Jinghua Manor. He helped me down from the carriage. Old General Yi was already rushing out to greet me. Booming voice rang out, Prince Chu. I never expected such an honored guest. I smiled and bowed respectfully. General Yi, I was in a rush last time. Today I brought some simple gifts I hope you accept. He laughed out loud, his face lighting up with real warmth. You are way too kind. No need for gifts here. We exchanged pleasantries as we walked inside. The truth is, I used to run around this exact manor playing with his granddaughter Lian. We really were childhood sweethearts. In many ways, General Yi probably understood me better than my own father, the Emperor. He really trusted me. When I suddenly left Tianwu City, poor Lian practically withered away from missing me so much. If I had not sent letters proving I was safe, she might have died from a broken heart. Time really flies. That little sixth prince finally grew into Prince Chu. We walked into the main hall, and the general knew exactly why I was here. He was never the type to block two young lovers. He told me, your highness, I have some urgent business to handle. I will have the chef prep a massive feast for you. I nodded, please do not let me interrupt your work. He grinned widely. Lian is waiting in the study. You can find your own way there. My face instantly burned hot. Even as a prince, I could not help but blush. The old general just chuckled and walked off. I stepped steadily straight toward the study room. So right near the door, two little heads peeked out. It was Jinhui and Jinyan, Lian's maids. Sister Jinhui, is Prince Chu really that handsome? The younger girl whispered. Jinhui asked, did you miss him last time? Jinyan frowned, I was too far away. Jinhui sighed. Let us just say he and Our Lady are a perfect match. Honestly, no one else even comes close. I stepped inside the room. Instantly, Jin Yan froze. She stared at me like some god descending right from the heavens. My power had spiked recently, completely transforming my presence and aura. I looked like someone who just stepped out of a painting, elegant, ethereal, and slightly dangerous. The both maids were completely stunned. Meanwhile, Lian was right there, scolding the girls for making a racket. Spotting me, her voice died in her throat. She quickly lowered her head, looking completely flustered. I knew exactly what she was thinking. She worried I might see her as cruel for being so strict with the maids. I just smiled calmly. I told her there was absolutely no need for formalities between us. It was kind of sad. Getting older meant stricter rules. So back then, she would have jumped up and grabbed my arm without hesitating. I told Jinhui they could leave. Once they stepped out, I looked straight at Lian. She was tying a black silk ribbon over her eyes again. I asked softly, why wear this again? She stammered, calling me Your Highness. Before she could finish, I stepped closer. A gentle breeze followed. I reached out and slowly untied the ribbon. As her eyes fluttered open in the bright room, I quickly shielded them with my hand and whispered, careful, do not hurt your eyes. Her ears flushed deep red. She looked so incredibly fragile. Watching her, my heart just completely softened. At first, I maybe just wanted to change the story. If everyone else chased the heroines, I would go after the demonic girl. But over time, I actually fell in love with this sweet girl. I refused to let the original plot destroy her, not on my watch. Her eyes finally adjusted. She looked at me, her eyes turning red as she fought to hold back her tears. I told her I am sorry I could not stay longer last time. Her eyes were still the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. She shook her head, her face flushed like peach blossoms. Just having you here is enough. I hesitated, then gently took her hand. She trembled lightly but never pulled away. In this world, holding hands was actually a massive deal. Scholars would write angry poems for weeks if they caught us. I never cared. I said, let us go to the lake pavilion. I will share exciting stories about the outside world. We sat near the water. She leaned in, blue eyes sparkling with pure curiosity. She asked, Your Highness, who is stronger, the four-sword immortals or the sword saint? She spent her entire life trapped within these walls. The outside world was just a mystery to her. I sipped my tea and said personally, the old sword saint is definitely the strongest. That title alone puts him completely above the rest. I traveled south of Jian City 3 times just to challenge him. First time I knew I'd lose, I ran. But the second time I stood my ground. He cracked a few of my ribs. Lian gasped, the color draining completely from her face. He grabbed my sleeve, hands trembling. Your ribs? I have medicine. My dad left some here. I will go get it right now. I caught her hand and chuckled. What a silly girl, I told her, smiling softly. As if you have spirit medicine here, do you really think the Imperial Palace lacks something like that? Relax, your prince is totally fine. Lian flushed with embarrassment, her cheeks turning a delicate shade of pink. Princess Lian is not a fool, she mumbled in a voice so sweet it made my heart skip a beat. She was incredibly cute. I could barely handle it. And right then I made a silent vow to myself. Within 2 days, I would track down her grandfather and set an official wedding date. We were absolutely getting married. It simply had to happen. Prince Chu Miss Jinshu came running toward us, totally out of breath. The 5th prince, Shun Tingfeng, just arrived. I raised an eyebrow. Shun Tingfeng really lived up to his reputation for always showing up wherever there was free food and booze. I think he actually followed me to the Jinghua estate. Let us go meet my 5th brother, I told Lian. He had already forced me to buy him a massive bag of pastries earlier today. Your Highness, wait a second. Lian instinctively reached for the black silk ribbon sitting on the table. She wanted to cover her eyes again, but I moved faster, snatching it first. Silly girl, why keep wearing this? But Your Highness, she lowered her head, her voice trailing off. I knew exactly why. I knew about the rumors. To the world, she was a bad omen, some cursed demon. Those words were like thorns buried deep inside her heart. Covering her eyes was her only way to hide. A little self-deception just to ease the pain. She probably spent her long nights, wondering if someone like her even deserved me at all. Maybe she thought it best to hide and watch me from afar. She likely blamed herself heavily for her mother's tragic death too. So what was going on inside that little head? I gently rested my hand on her forehead. The warmth of her blush had already spread down her neck. Forget the rumors, I told her firmly. Those people are totally blind. As long as I am here, you are never wearing this ribbon again. You are my future princess. If anyone dares mock you, I will make sure they deeply regret it. I looked at her dead serious. I literally felt like the main character in some cheesy romance novel. It was a bit embarrassing to think about, but I meant every single word. Tears welled up in Lian's eyes. She couldn't hold back anymore and threw her arms around me. You silly girl, I whispered with a soft laugh, wrapping my arms around her slender waist. Nearby, Jinshu let out a small burp, quickly covering her mouth. She had not eaten a thing, but just watching us made her feel strangely full. Over in the main hall, old General Yi was giving Shun Tingfeng a totally forced smile. The 5th prince is a rare guest indeed. I came specifically to congratulate Duke Ye. Sun Tingfeng claimed he just finished a huge meal at a tavern and just happened to be wandering nearby. He figured he would drop by and see if he could score more free food. He really was not scared of the bad luck rumors. If Lian was truly cursed, the Yi family wouldn't have survived the past decade, and the emperor never would have let her join the royals. Only absolute fools believe those stories. I thank the prince for his kindness, the general said, bowing slightly. With the formalities over, the two just stood there staring. The silence turned painfully awkward. The general's eyebrow twitched. It was almost dinner time. Why hasn't this kid left yet? The Jinghua estate had no extra plates for him. Sun Tingfeng's smile began to freeze in place. He was a prince, for crying out loud. He came all this way to congratulate him, and the duke wasn't even going to offer a meal. Fifth brother. To what a coincidence. I called out, to walking in with Lian. Sixth brother. Sun Tingfeng looked genuinely shocked, cursing under his breath. Why am I running into you everywhere? He started speaking, but his eyes suddenly locked onto the two women behind me. He froze. Jaw practically hit the floor. Good lord, she is a fairy. To greetings, fifth prince, Lian said, bowing gracefully right beside Jinshu. Her pale blue eyes sparkled like clear water at sunset. Sixth brother, who is this? Sun Tingfeng stammered. I just smiled, pride swelling up in my chest. This is my future wife, Lian. Lian lowered her head, incredibly shy. Sun Tingfeng looked like he had just been struck by lightning. Now he finally understood why I begged the emperor for this marriage in front of the entire court. Compared to her, the city's four beauties were nothing but ordinary, worthless stones. He couldn't believe the Yi family had been hiding a literal goddess inside their home all these years. He felt a sharp pang of jealousy. Sixth brother, so you have some truly incredible luck, he managed to say, giving me a solid thumbs up. He probably didn't fully realize that if he had tried making a move on her first, it would have been closer to death than he ever was in his entire life. Thanks for the blessing, fifth brother, I told him calmly. I knew a fresh rumor would sweep the city tomorrow. Beauty rules every era. If you are beautiful enough, your very sins become charming. I was totally determined to silence those old whispers. When people mention Yan, curses will never cross their minds again. Instead, they will only remember grace and immense luck. Anyway, sixth brother Du Qi and Miss Yi, I just remembered some urgent business. I am leaving now. Xinting mentioned feeling like a total outcast. He was just some kid looking for a free meal while we were a real family. Mood hit rock bottom twice today, all because of me. In his eyes, I was the true bad omen. So we walked him out. Yan stood with hands on his hips, watching him leave. A pretty rare sight. He only visited 3 times in all these years. Fifth brother is incredibly busy. I chuckled, and the old general called out Prince Chu. The banquet is fully prepared. Stay for a few drinks. I called it an honor. He laughed loudly. Excellent. Head down to the cellar. Bring out our very best stash. The prince and I are drinking until we drop tonight. The next morning, the sun shone brightly over the city. I stretched lazily as I dragged myself back to Chu Manor. My head was pounding. Old General Yi really made me suffer last night. Then I had to barely survive the early morning court session. I felt exactly like a high schooler pulling an all-nighter, only to be forced into early morning math class. I tried catching some sleep in a corner during the meeting, but the officials absolutely refused to stop yelling, arguing, crying about being poor, begging for funds. The royal court was way louder and more annoying than a street market. My brother, the crown prince, tried calming them down repeatedly, that it only worked for a few minutes. I deeply envied my younger brothers under 15. They never had to attend these annoying sessions. Then there was Xun Ningfeng, the absolute king of slackers, who always found some excuse to skip. I told my attendant Mino I was going to sleep. Wake me at noon. Mino pulled a small note from his sleeve. Your Highness, the schedule says you must attend the academy at 4 today for your studies. I froze right there. Which academy? Tianwu Academy. It is the royal school strictly for princes and high officials' sons. The headmaster there was no ordinary scholar. It was Zhao Xu, the chief disciple of the literary saint. Even the crown prince had to bow and call him master. My peaceful morning was now officially ruined. Since fifth brother took the throne, the great Qin dynasty entered a completely new era of martial spirit. He firmly believed a man must stabilize the nation with literature, while defending it with his sword. Because of this, he paid massive attention to the education system. He built academies everywhere and established strict exams to find talent. It was basically a copy of the ancient civil service exams from my past life. But for us princes and princesses, the rules were much harsher. Having a government post or noble title meant nothing. You were never exempt from the academy until you officially graduated. I am not going. I gave my final short answer. Mino looked incredibly worried. Your Highness, if you skip, how will we explain it to His Majesty? The academy keeps super strict attendance and knows exactly who shows up. By the end of the day, that list goes straight to the Emperor himself. I waved my hand, completely uncaring. The worst-case scenario, I just visit him tonight. Besides, what is the point of studying all that boring literature? If I really wanted to impress people, I could just steal famous verses from the 4 books and 5 great classics. I would instantly be hailed as a literary saint. I definitely had better things to do with my time, like rushing back to Jinghua Palace to hold Lian's hand. Mino gave me a thumbs up, Your Highness. You are truly bold. I ordered him to fetch a light lunch. He nodded. Yes, Your Highness. I will arrange it right away. Over at Tianwu Academy, the atmosphere was completely suffocating. Zhao, the literary saint's chief disciple, stood in his white scholar robe, gripping the attendance register. He called my name again, Shunyan. Total silence fell over the classroom. My fifth brother Xun Ningfeng sat there, eyes wide in absolute awe. He thought to himself, sixth brother is a complete legend. He actually dared to skip the 7th pavilion session. Even a slacker like Ningfeng didn't have the guts to pull a stunt like that. The fourth Prince Shun Jingyu sat nearby, noticing Ningfeng's sly little smirk. He asked fifth brother, you look pretty excited. Did you find something interesting? Ningfeng rubbed his thumb and index finger together, the universal sign for money. Fourth brother, I discovered a massive secret, but it depends on your sincerity. Jingyu laughed, pulling a gold bracelet right off his wrist. I left the house in a rush today and forgot my silver. Will this do? Ningfeng grabbed the gold, bit it to check, then grinned. This works. This definitely works. Come closer. He leaned in and whispered directly into Jingyu's ear. Jingyu's eyebrows shot up in shock as he muttered a fairy of unmatched beauty. Meanwhile, 7th Prince Shunlin sat behind them silently. He was still young. Innocent curiosity filled his face as he leaned forward wondering what they were talking about. Tongfeng spared absolutely no one. He rubbed his fingers greedily right in the kid's face, leaving Lu Yin completely stunned. Fifth brother, you know I am poorer than you. Jingyu felt generous, slipping another gold bracelet off his wrist and handing it over. Instantly, Tongfeng dropped his gaze to check Jingyu's ankles. He wondered if these guys got a massive pay raise the moment they earned their titles. Jingyu just laughed, waving his hands, do not look. This is absolutely everything I have. Tongfeng snatched the gold and waved the youngest brother over. Seconds later, Lin Yuan stood completely stunned. Impossible, man. Would I lie? Dead silence. Zhao yelled angrily, closing the register and turning to a young servant. Head to the Chu family manor and ask the prince why he skipped today. When that servant reached my gates, he was literally trembling with fear. Menu was massive and scarred enough to terrify anyone. Clasping his hands, Menu said the prince was feeling unwell today. Please let the master know. The servant nodded frantically and sprinted away. Mo sighed, feeling incredibly proud of himself. He firmly believed that without him handling these issues, my entire household would have probably collapsed. By lunchtime at the academy, the rumor mill was running at full capacity. Tongfeng sprinted around like crazy, stopping anyone he crossed. I have a massive secret, want to hear it? By the time he finished, his pockets were overflowing with gold and silver. News about Yanyi spread like wildfire. That cursed girl from the Ye family was not a monster anymore. She was actually a hidden beauty. Did you hear? The Yi girl outshines the 4 great beauties. The word is she is a real cursed fairy, forced to live in the human world. The chatter flipped from fear to pure obsession. People even started arguing about whether the 4 great beauties should now become the 5 beauties. Naturally, a few absolute idiots decided they needed to see this firsthand. And brave or stupid souls tried scaling the Jinghua Manor walls, only to be beaten back by guards with clubs. Inside, old General Yanzi sat with an incredibly dark and furious expression. He knew exactly who caused this mess. It was that blabbermouth Tongfeng, and honestly he had no idea whether to be thrilled or furious. He was glad people finally stopped calling his granddaughter a disaster. He was boiling mad. His home was now treated like a tourist attraction. Luckily, I warned him the night before. He doubled the guard detail, leaving intruders with 0 chance. Sir, a servant named Ah Fu reported in. The Marquis of Lucheng's son is at the gate with a visiting card. Tell them to get lost, Yanzi snarled. The manor is closed to all visitors today. A moment later, Ah Fu rushed right back inside. Sir, what now? I said no visitors. It is someone sent by Prince Chu. Ah Fu whispered. Yanzi blinked, then told him to let them in. Changhai entered the hall, bowing respectfully. General, the prince heard the manor was being harassed by unwanted guests, so he sent me with 100 Jin guards to help. We are at your service. The Yanzi looked outside at 100 elite soldiers wearing silver and black armor. Their long blades gleamed at their waists. Finally, a tiny faint smile crossed his face. The prince is very thoughtful. Back at my own manor, I asked Menu. Did Changhai arrive safely? Yes, your highness. He is at the Yi estate now. I nodded. Excellent. Let's wait and see just how wide this whirlpool gets. Meanwhile, far out in the west, the wind howled straight through Tianmen Pass. The first legendary pass under the heavens, a massive fortress built into the mountains. The walls were heavily scarred by time and brutal sands. But one mark stood out intensely, a terrifying sword fissure stretching from the very top of the tower straight down to the earth below. The legend says the sword Saint Baiwan was actually intercepted here years ago. The defending general challenged him, demanding to know how he would break the world's greatest pass. Baiwan just unleashed one strike and walked away. For so many years, nobody dared repair the tower. The lingering sword intent was just too strong, stopping anyone from getting close. It became a holy sight for swordsmen everywhere. Up on the wall, a captain spat out a mouthful of sand. The wind is incredibly fierce today. His right eye was twitching uncontrollably. He had this awful gut feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Out in the desert, a dark shadow flashed through the sandstorm. It moved with a sound like 1,000 people screaming in agony, the wail drowning out the wind itself. Suddenly that mysterious shadow stopped dead. The wind whipped his black robes against a frail body. A raspy voice like a dying crow echoed out into the void. Little mouse, you followed me all this way. Not going to come out? The old man's voice was utterly hideous, a terrifying raspy clash between crying and laughing all at once. Suddenly, the sand in front of him began bulging and shifting. A small mound formed and exploded violently as a tiny, tall body leaped out, landing with perfect grace. Bah, you old fossil, the girl shouted, dusting herself off completely. Such nerve. If I hadn't leaked my aura on purpose, do you really think you'd notice me? I've been tracking you since Night City. Then she pointed right at the man I knew as the withered northern elder. Her voice was incredibly sharp, just like a tiny kitten trying to roar. Her name was Zishu. The elder's wrinkled face looked just like rotting tree bark, and it instantly went pale. Absolute shock. He had never seen a stealth technique this perfect. This kid was only in the human realm. Stepping up to him was a straight-up suicide mission. Unless she wasn't alone. In the martial arts world, your cultivation level means absolutely everything. Going from unranked to first grade, then human, mystic, free, and sky dance, all the way up to the legendary spirit realm. The elder was insanely strong, but suddenly the atmosphere shifted. 4 phantoms ripped through the sandstorm at terrifying speed. They instantly boxed the elder into a perfect execution square. Zishu just stuck her tongue out at him. She flipped him a very modern middle finger, then dove straight back into the sand, like a fish hitting the water. The elder's face twisted into a mask of pure terror. These 4 newcomers were radiating massive, suffocating auras, but one of them felt way stronger than him. As the demonic cult's left protector, being hunted was totally normal, but this situation felt different. It felt like an absolute dead end. The elder forced a sickeningly polite tone. Who exactly are you? He offered a deep apology for any offense. To settle things, he even promised the Heaven Snow Burial Flower and a top-tier demonic cult manual. Dead silence. Just the howling wind answering back. Then someone finally moved. The shadow leaped as a golden tiger phantom roared to life behind him. He dropped from above like a predator diving off a peak. The strike was brutally heavy. The elder knew he could not block it. It was pure yang energy, the complete opposite of his dark arts. He twisted hard, miraculously dodging the blow, then a massive explosion. A foot slammed into the sand where he just stood. The violent shockwave kicked up a 3-meter wall of gravel. Before he could even breathe, 3 arrows whistled through the dust, aiming straight for his skull. The elder screamed out, wailing palm. A massive purple phantom hand materialized, violently shattering the sand and blocking the shots. He barely broke 2 arrows, but the third ripped a whole strip of skin off his cheek. Foul black blood splattered his face, making him look like a demon crawling straight out of hell. He instantly dashed back 10 meters, his black cloak violently fluttering. Spear shadows rained from the sky, exploding all around him. The demon's suppression staff. The heavy wooden staff tore through the air, smashing toward his head. The elder cursed a monk? But where did a bald monk from Tianmu Temple even come from? He surged his ghost aura, catching that heavy staff completely barehanded. The split-second deadlock. The elder's eyes flashed with pure murder. He readied a wailing palm with his free hand, but the tiger aura guy was already there. A golden fist slammed his chest. The golden tiger roared. His ghost aura completely shattered. The elder coughed up blood, flying violently backward. Mid-air, another arrow pierced right through his hand. He hit the sand, struggling to his feet, but instead of weakening, his aura just erupted. Pure desperation. Inho yelled at them to stop. Waving everyone back, he took a hidden dragon pill. He's going completely berserk for the next 15 minutes. Fall back. But Wuma, the guy in the black hat, stayed totally silent. He drew his bow, pouring every drop of energy into one arrow. I will kill you. I will kill you all. The elder shrieked, eyes bulging and totally bloodshot. The arrow fired. A red flash punched right through his forehead with zero resistance. The massive shockwave hit. Energy scattered everywhere. Shreds of black cloth fluttered through the air like burning paper. Is he dead? Wei Yang asked, dropping his spear. Inho frowned, his stare sharpening. No, the golden cicada shell technique. He is running, go after him. Miles away, a pale, skinless phantom was sprinting naked across the barren desert. It was the elder. He had sacrificed his outer skin just to escape. Just had to reach Night City alive. If he survived, he swore he would tear those bastards into pieces. He would turn that little girl's skull into a wineglass. Then, through the thick dust storm, a shadow stepped right toward him. Hope flared in his chest. Reinforcements from the city? He sprinted harder. But as he closed the gap, he spotted a bronze mask. An ancient beast mask. The world seemed to slow down. The masked man walked right past him in total silence, then a sharp click. The blade snapping back into its scabbard echoed on the wind. The masked man kept walking toward Tianmen Pass. Behind him, the elder froze. Drops of black blood hit the sand. His last thought was realizing the sheer magnitude of power he just faced. A half step into the spirit realm. The elder's body split into two perfect halves, tumbling down a dune until the desert buried him forever. Back at the Crown Prince's palace in the capital, things were way quieter. Your Highness, a eunuch just reported Prince Chu sent 100 elite guards to Jinhua Palace. My brother, Crown Prince Shen Mukin, lounged across his couch, long black hair spilling over silk robes. He looked completely bored. So our sixth brother fiercely protects his lover. Huh. He yawned loudly, and our fifth brother actually visited Yi Palace yesterday. Pretty sure the Yili Yan rumors started with him. You are wise, Your Highness. Mukin laughed. That is not wisdom at all. Just completely understood exactly how his brothers operated. Keep your eyes open and watch Chu Palace closely. So with most of his guards gone, someone will feel pretty nervous tonight. The eunuch gasped. You mean someone would actually dare attack a prince inside the city? Nobody is quite that stupid, Minin said, shaking his head. But they will never let him sleep in peace. My brother left the capital for 5 whole years. He came back holding so many secrets, throwing a lot of cards on the table. People are genuinely terrified. They want to see what he actually hides. Do you want to know, Your Highness? Of course, but I am in no rush. Someone else will do the dirty work and fetch my answers. Mukin dismissed the eunuch, checking his servant Achan. I am just so tired. Let us rest. As the dark night fell, I sat inside my private room studying the chessboard. I sighed slowly, rubbing my aching forehead. The lost again, I told Fuxing. He kept his eyes half closed, offering a slight nod. You definitely did, Your Highness. The whirlpool was spinning hard. Exactly as I expected, it came right back to swallow me whole. Fuxing studied the darkening sky, eyes sharp like a hawk. Your Majesty, do you need me to step in right now? Not necessary, I replied with a light chuckle. I already made all the necessary arrangements. More accurately, someone else is helping us tonight. Then I stretched my arms high. Let us eat first. I might have to take a quick trip to the palace later. Fuxing looked curious. Is this regarding academy affairs? I hope so, I answered. After dinner, I stood in the courtyard, performing a full set of broadcast calisthenics. It was a bizarre sight for this world. Still, it helped stretch my muscles and completely clear my mind. They are here, Mindu yelled, sprinting toward me with an urgent, frantic voice. I didn't even bother looking up. They arrived. Where is my horse? The servants already brought it to the main gate, he gasped out. I nodded, shooting him one last look. Stick to the plan. Everything needs to be perfectly precise. But what if they never show up? Mindu asked. Then wait until I return and go to sleep. Mindu smiled then, giving me this mysterious, knowing look. Out at the main gate, a group of knights waited. They wore red battle robes and silver dragon scale armor, heavy blades strapped to their waists. These guys were the Imperial Guard. They dismounted the second they saw me, bowing with incredibly deep respect. Prince Chu, His Majesty orders you to enter the Imperial Palace immediately. We have 0 time to waste right now. I understand, I said, swinging onto my horse and kicking his sides hard. Let us go. I shot off like a bullet, leaving a thick dust cloud behind. The guards scrambled onto their horses, racing fast right behind me. The royal palace was not too far, and soon our horses clattered loudly across the inner courtyard. An old eunuch stood waiting for me right outside the imperial study doors. It was Xiao Hai, the head eunuch. Eunuch Xiao, I called out, pulling my horse to a stop. This old servant greets Prince Chu, he said, bowing with deep respect. I leaned closer to him, lowering my voice. How is my father feeling today? Xiao Hai looked incredibly nervous. I do not dare say, Your Majesty. So come on, Eunuch Xiao. Just nod for happy and shake for sad. I pulled out a 500 banknote, slipping it quietly inside his sleeve. Your Majesty, I cannot accept this. It is just a little money for tea, I insisted. While we stood there arguing, my father's booming voice echoed straight from inside the study. Old Sixth, I am right here, I shouted back. I hurried inside, offering a formal bow, while Xiao Hai quietly hid the cash and followed me in. My father, Emperor Shen Wei, was buried behind a massive mountain of scrolls and documents. He did not even bother looking up. So why did you skip the academy today? I just did not want to go, I answered honestly. Finally, he set his scroll down, his entire expression shifting noticeably. So why I simply was not in the mood. Is Teacher Zhao a terrible instructor? No, he is actually excellent, I told him. Just did not want to go. I will fine you a full month of salary, he snapped. Any objections? My heart clenched, but I kept my expression completely neutral. Do not dare. I actually knew this was coming. The old man was always hunting for any excuse to bleed me dry. I hear your Bayan Chamber of Commerce is pretty busy with foreign merchants lately, he mentioned casually. The horse market is about to open up, father. I just wanted to secure enough stock of breeding horses and grain transport horses for this year. Just told those merchants to negotiate the prices early. Just talking about this gave me a pretty painful twinge in my chest. I built the Bayan Chamber of Commerce out of nothing. Meanwhile, my father invested purely by lending me his face and his protection. And in return, he took 50% of the profits without lifting a single finger. Worse, he always found sneaky ways to tax my own share. Because right now, 60% of the Empire's war horses come from my company. You work quite hard, he said. It is my duty, I answered, my mouth twitching slightly. Father, I have just one request. Speak then. I need you to choose an auspicious and blessed day for my wedding. A faint smile finally touched his face. Is it impatience, or are the rumors bothering you? There are far too many rumors lately. I am worried about any sudden changes. Last time I saw Lian, she was just a baby in her mother's arms. But my father mused that she is a grown woman now. Time flies. I stayed totally silent. I recalled that Lian's father, Yun, served as my father's personal bodyguard back when he was still the crown prince. Father, there is one thing I really do not understand. He asked what? You never seem to care about these rumors, but he cut me off. I actually do. I trust you entirely. I know you will not let Lian suffer. A clear test. I answered firmly, I will never let you down. Good. Now I have a scroll here for you to examine. If your answer is unconvincing, I am docking another month of your pay. Later that night, I walked right out of the palace gates. Back inside the study, Xiaohai stood quietly beside the emperor. My father asked what he thought about the sixth prince. Xiaohai bowed his head in deep respect. If I may speak frankly, Prince Chu has been an absolute genius since childhood. He is wildly talented, deeply read, and incredibly skilled in martial arts. He shares your exact features, your majesty. He is a true blessing to the empire. The emperor asked if I appoint an heir. Do you think he is suitable? Xiaohai instantly went pale and dropped to his knees. He claimed this servant was far too terrified to discuss such major matters. My father let out a slow sigh. Whatever he does, his purpose is always incredibly intense. Outside, the night sky over Tianwu City suddenly ripped wide open. Huge pops and massive explosions rang out. Bright streaks of light shot up, bursting into 1,000 vivid colors. Over at Jinghua Palace, Lian looked straight up. Her long, pale neck caught the light as she stared, her eyelashes visibly trembling. She whispered how beautiful it was. Inside Marquis Wu Ying's estate, another young woman stood in her courtyard, her eyes sparkling with sheer awe. Such beautiful fireworks for a quiet street. Suddenly, my carriage jolted to a stop. My guard looked incredibly confused. A festival today? Wait a second. That direction, it is the prince's palace. I leaned against the carriage and calmly touched his shoulder. This place is perfect. Let us just stay here and enjoy the beautiful show. He started saying, but your highness, the palace. As I waved him off. Do not worry, just watch. Back at my estate, Mindo had just finished lighting the final fireworks. He drew his sharp blade and signaled the guards to retreat immediately, while dozens of men in black poured over the walls. Are these the prince's elite? An intruder sneered, blocking a guard's strike. They actually fight worse than mere peasants. Shut up and keep searching, the leader in black snapped. When the prince returned, he brought 2 large black boxes. Find them now. The attackers swarmed toward the backyard. Mindo punched a guy so hard he flew backward, then screamed at everyone, run. The guards never hesitated. They just turned and fled deeper into the palace. The intruders quickly tried to chase them. A sharp whistle sliced through the exploding fireworks. A rapid volley of arrows followed, making blood bloom like flowers under the colorful light. In a flash, half of the 30 intruders were pinned to the ground by heavy crossbow arrows. The leader spun insanely fast. His blurry sword knocked multiple arrows straight out of the cold air. His pupils shrank. Impossible. How did they get here so fast? Up on the palace roofs, dozens of masked figures suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They gripped heavy tangling bows, eyes dead cold behind their masks. The Wu Yi division. The Emperor's secret fangs. Attack, Commander Sanchi ordered. The Wu Yi guards dropped their bows and immediately drew their sharp blades. They dropped right off the roofs, like savage wolves invading a sheep pen. The men in black, supposedly elite assassins, honestly never stood a single chance against them. The total massacre. The assassin leader ground his teeth in sheer anger. If the Wu Yi squad was 15 minutes late, they would have found those boxes. Right now, he was simply fighting to survive. He leapt high into the air, trying to clear the outer wall. He was incredibly fast, but another shadow was vastly quicker. Feeling a massive presence rushing his flank, he blindly swung his sword. A loud metallic clash echoed. The meteor hammer, glowing red from the fireworks, brutally smashed his blade. The violent impact sent him completely tumbling back into the dirt courtyard. Sanchi yanked the chain backward, eyes fixed on his prey. The trap was tightly shut. Sanchi gave the leader no chance to catch his breath. Spinning the meteor hammer insanely fast, he stepped forward and used that momentum to launch the heavy iron straight at his skull. The leader raised his sword to block, but the crash was devastating. A massive piece of the blade shattered instantly. The raw force surged down his arm, numbing his grip and forcing him several meters back along the wall. Distance widened. Sanchi released a sharp breath of internal energy, and the small sparks inside the meteor hammer caught the rushing wind. A sudden wave of flame erupted, totally consuming the assassin leader. With a heavy thud, Sanchi kicked the hammer into the fire. The leader yelled, "Get out of here." 2 arcs of sword energy slashed through the flames, forcing Sanchi back. The masked man vaulted the wall, clutching his ruined shoulder, and fled the estate in total disgrace. Commander Song, why aren't we chasing him? One of the men asked, vaulting the wall. Sanchi gripped his weapon with a stone-cold expression, wondering if Bai Hu had been here and left. Any survivors? The subordinate gasped at her name. He answered that they were suicide squads, sir, and keeping them alive was just impossible. Sanchi told his men to grab the bodies and retreat. I shouted, hold on a second. My voice cut the air as I approached with my guards. Is my estate a public park? You really think you can just come and go as you please, after causing all this bloody destruction? Isn't the Wei squad going to pay for these repairs? Sanch immediately jumped down and bowed before me. Greetings, Prince Chu. I cut him off, save the formalities. Just pay the compensation. Minu, my massive 9-foot-tall guard, came running from the back courtyard. Wiping away completely fake tears, he put on an award-winning dramatic performance. He wailed, Your Highness. I told him to tally the damages right here. That way they can never claim I am extorting them. Sanchi looked ready to explode. Your Highness, he snapped, we came here under strict orders to protect you from those assassins. We were helping you. I fired back, no. You showed up because of the fireworks. They looked pretty, but they were actually distress signals from your squad. You guys did not come for me. You came to handle your own mission. Minu started tallying up the losses. Your Highness, these green roof tiles were specially ordered from Gu. They cost 100 silver coins each, and there are at least 100 shattered pieces. And these floor tiles. Commander Song's face twitched. He knew this estate belonged to a former prime minister and was fully renovated using the Emperor's money. I was simply charging him for the Emperor's private property. Prince Chu, it has been a long time. You are still as annoying as always. That cold, pure voice drifted down from above. The woman descended from the sky like a winter spirit. Her fitted white robe perfectly highlighted her slender, graceful figure. Her hair was pure snow white, her skin pale as frost. A single beauty mark rested delicately right at the corner of her eye. She was incredibly stunning. Sanchi and the other guards immediately dropped to one knee in respect. Bai Hu, one of the 4 great commanders of the Wei squad, quietly folded her white fan. The guy you want is dumped in the alley outside. He is still taking his last breaths, barely alive. Take your men and leave now. Yes, Lady Bai Hu, they answered. Once the guards cleared out, absolute silence blanketed the estate. The night wind blew softly. Her voice shifted into a tone of mild annoyance, you little troublemaker. I've been back for a while now, yet you never even bothered to visit me. Minu and the other guards gasped in shock, exchanging wide-eyed looks. So what was this relationship between their prince and the legendary Bai Hu? I frowned, we will talk in the study. The second we walked in, Bai Hu started teasing me. 5 whole years away, did you miss me? I held up a hand. Stop. I am not into older women. Just pay for the damage your men did to my house. I held out my hand, expecting cash. Her eyebrows shot up. Who are you calling an old woman? I coldly reminded her she is 12 years older. You are in your 30s. If that is not an old woman, what is? I am your aunt, she yelled. Do you not know how to respect your elders? I snapped back, and I am a prince. I have never once heard you call me your highness. She sighed, her expression softening. I heard you are marrying Ulian. Yes, I replied, that is correct. Since I am getting married, when will you find a good man and settle down? She teased, do you really want me to marry someone else and leave you? Absolutely, I replied. I will make a fortune off the wedding gifts. You little brat, looks like I need to teach you a harsh lesson for your mother. If anyone saw us right then, their jaw would have hit the floor in pure shock. A high-ranking Wei commander and a prince, bickering like little kids. Eventually, we both got tired of arguing. Bai Hu sat down and looked at me with total seriousness. He whispered, I really did not think you would come back. Are you actually ready to jump into this cold, ruthless power struggle? I answered calmly. If I did not come back, certain things would never be resolved. She slammed her fan against the desk and stood up. I might be one of the 4 commanders here, but remember this, I am your aunt. Your mother entrusted you to me. I will be stationed in Tianwu City until the new year. If anything happens, come find me immediately. Rubbing my forehead, I sighed. If a prince is seen visiting the Wei headquarters, the royal court will find out in minutes. You want me in even more trouble? She scoffed. Trouble? Who would even dare try to start trouble with me? Nobody dares bother you, but they will absolutely come for me. I rolled my eyes. The Wei squad was the Emperor's sword against the martial arts world. Anyone who dared touch it was playing with fire. I have important business to handle, she said, leaving her fan on my desk. Take this. This fan is basically me. With a soft hum, she vanished into thin air as if she was never there. That old woman got much stronger. I called out Fuxing. If you fought her, what are your chances? Fuxing stepped from the shadows. 50%, your highness. That is plenty. I smiled and flicked my fan open. It revealed a stunning painting of a white tiger coming down the mountain, radiating absolute murderous intent. This power struggle was never just about killing rivals or swapping out an emperor. It was about the ancient families and noble houses, those blood-sucking spiders feeding off the Shen dynasty. Every time the dragon moves, their fangs sink deeper. If one dragon falls, they simply wait for the next one to feed them. I called out for Minu. He ran inside right here, your highness. I asked about casualties. Just minor injuries, he replied. Some rooms got ruined, but the staff is cleaning up. To reward everyone, double the pay for the injured. The next morning, I woke up pretty late. Last night's attack gave me the perfect excuse to skip the morning court session. The old emperor cannot complain. Honestly, he might even send consolation gifts. Where are you heading so early, Your Highness? The guard asked. Jinghua Palace, I replied. He offered a carriage. I refused walking alone. Do not follow me. I reached the Yi family estate, but it seemed the morning court session ran late today. Old General Yi Tianzi hadn't returned, but knowing I was there, Lian completely gave up waiting for her grandfather. Surprise and joy flashed in Lian's eyes the second she saw me. She had been eagerly waiting for her grandfather, but I showed up instead. Logically, the two of us should have returned from morning court together. She looked pretty confused, probably wondering about the old general. So I told her a little white lie. I claimed I had urgent business and skipped court entirely, adding that I was just passing by on my way back home. I could not tell this poor girl assassins attacked my estate last night. If she knew, she would be too anxious to eat or sleep for days. I smiled at her. Lian, the weather is gorgeous today. So why not take a nice walk with me? I didn't want her cooped up inside the estate all day long. Besides, way too many shady figures had been lurking around the Jinghua Palace walls lately, spying on her. She really needed to clear her head. Lian's eyes lit up for a second, then quickly dimmed. She fiddled with her hands, looking completely hesitant. I laughed softly and grabbed her small hand. If you stay quiet, I am taking that as a yes. She stammered, her face flushing red. Wait a second, Your Highness. Lian needs to get ready first. Minutes later, she stepped out with a white silk veil draped over her head. It gave her a soft, hazy beauty. I didn't mind at all. The political storm wasn't over, and her captivating eyes would draw way too much attention out on the streets. Her maids Jin Shu and Jin Lian were beaming with joy. They rarely got to leave the estate, so tagging along thrilled them. Shanghai was already there, so I had him grab 2 soldiers to trail us for protection. As we slipped out the back gate, old General Yi Tianzi finally returned home. He had just survived a pretty heated morning court session. The emperor was furious about the attack on my palace, ordering a massive investigation. Anwu City was about to be turned completely upside down. When the old man heard I stole his granddaughter for a stroll, he just smiled, amused but totally helpless. He had tried taking her out plenty of times, but she stubbornly refused. Seems I was the only one capable of getting her outside. Lian and I walked together up front. Shanghai and the maids stayed about 10 meters behind us, giving us a little privacy. To reach the northern market, we had to cross the southern market first. This was the turf of the truly wealthy and powerful. So high-end shops lined the streets, selling silk, jade, and wine. Unlike the chaotic northern market, it was quiet here. Bright sun, but the streets were almost completely empty. Ordinary citizens just didn't dare walk through here. You never knew when you might accidentally bump into a high-ranking official. Lian suddenly stopped outside a fabric shop, staring at the luxurious silk on display. She tilted her head slightly, clearly picturing me wearing a robe made from that very fabric. I asked her softly, "What is it? Want to take a look inside?" She nodded, her ears turning bright red as she glanced at me. Just then, a sharp-eyed shop assistant hurried outside. Working in this district, you had to be an absolute pro at reading people. So even with the veil, our clothes and posture screamed nobility. He instantly started fawning over us. So Lian carefully picked out a piece of fine silk and 2 cuts of brocade. "How much?" she asked, immediately reaching for her little silver purse. I already had a banknote ready. "Wrap it well," I told him. "Send it straight to Jinghua Palace." The assistant froze. Jinghua Palace. He looked at the veiled girl, then at me. His mind was absolutely racing. The Northern General's daughter and the Prince of Chu. He instantly bowed. "Please walk safely, Your Highness, my lady." As we left, he trembled with excitement. He was ready to brag about his new royal clients. At the moment he stepped toward the door, something hard pressed against his stomach. Chung Hei stood there, hand on his sword hilt, eyes ice cold. "To watch your mouth," Chung Hei growled. The assistant swallowed hard, breaking into a cold sweat. I swear my lips are sealed tight. Then we kept moving. The south market was quiet, but Lian was mesmerized. Her eyes darted around behind her veil. So nearing the north market, the vibe completely flipped. Noise spiked, crowds swelled. This was the city's beating heart for commoners. In our luxury silk, we were catching some serious attention. People instinctively backed away, forming a bubble around us. Like driving a sports car through gridlock, everyone makes way, terrified of paying the price if they leave a scratch. Next time, we definitely need to dress down. I sighed. The massive crowd was making Lian incredibly nervous. She reached out to grab my sleeve, hesitated, then pulled back. I caught her subtle movements. If this society wasn't so strict, I would have just grabbed her hand. "Don't worry," I whispered, "I am here." Then I purposely shifted my sleeve closer. Then I spotted a vendor. "Hawthorn candy," I called out. Lian jumped a bit at my sudden shout. The vendor rushed over, eyes gleaming at a rich customer. "I will take 2, I said, raising 2 fingers. "Right away, sir." Just 2 copper coins. He looked incredibly nervous. Nobles often grab things without paying, leaving poor guys like him cursing in secret. Then my smile twitched. I patted my pockets. Banknotes, silver ingots, but 0 coppers. I asked him, do you have change for a 10-tael note? The guy grimaced. He barely makes 10 taels a year. He figured I was trying to dodge the bill. Yili Yan gently tugged my sleeve. She pulled out 2 coppers. Feeling pretty awkward, I took them and paid the man. He gave Lian pure gratitude. As we walked away, Jin Hyo and Jin Lian reached the vendor. So we want 5 sticks, Jin Lian cheered. The vendor was thrilled until he spotted Chung Hei and the soldiers. Their armor and pure killing intent made his knees shake. He nearly collapsed on the spot. Jin Lian called out to Chung Hai, why are you walking so fast? But the guards never stopped, eyes locked on me and Lian in the crowd. Stupid Lian, Jin Hyo muttered. He flicked Jin Lian's forehead. He is the prince's bodyguard. He has duties. Just buy the candy so we can catch up. The vendor overheard them, his eyelids twitching. That gorgeous young man was actually a royal prince. Just stood that close to royalty. Oh my god. Down the street, Lian was facing the biggest crisis of our outing. The white veil hanging from her hat was a massive obstacle. If she wasn't extremely careful, the sticky hawthorn syrup would ruin the fine silk. But if she lifted the veil, everyone could clearly see her eyes. She stood frozen in absolute inner turmoil. The delicious red fruit was right there, but she had no clue how to eat it. Pick it off with her fingers? Suddenly, her hand felt lighter. I had snatched the stick away. See how exhausting it is taking you out, I teased with a soft laugh. I circulated my inner energy, focusing it right into my fingertips. With a gentle flick, a sugar-coated hawthorn popped off the bamboo skewer, hovering briefly before I caught it. Let me feed you. I lifted her white veil and offered the candy. Your Highness, she murmured, trembling. We used to do this as kids. Do not tell me you are shy now, I joked. Back then, she would feed me fruit, and I would peel nuts for her. Lian's face turned beet red, her heart racing from embarrassment, but she obediently opened her mouth. She took a delicate bite. Watching her lips move made my heart ache. So I honestly wondered how long it would take the old general to pick an auspicious wedding date. As we walked, Lian pulled out her little silver pouch. Being a beggar and her son, she stepped up to toss silver into their broken bowl. Suddenly, I grabbed her wrist hard. Your Highness, Lian looked at me, confused. You naive girl, I said softly, your kindness will just get them killed. I shot a cold glare at the alley. Several scrawny male beggars were lurking right there, watching her. Seeing my stance and realizing I wasn't someone to mess with, they retreated into the shadows. Then, a faint clink. I tossed coppers into the bowl. Go buy food, I said. She replied, thank you, sir, thank you, madam. The mother and son knelt, bowing in gratitude. I just do not understand, Lian shook her head as we walked away. A few silver ingots mean nothing to us, but they would give them a stable life for a very long time. She asked why we gave them only copper. I explained a few coppers feed them today, but giving them silver just makes them an easy target for criminals. A commoner can earn some copper through hard work, but several silver ingots equal months. Maybe half a year of income for a normal family. That amount alone drives people to murder out of greed. Lian quietly lowered her eyes. She is genuinely smart. It did not take long to grasp the dark logic behind my words. A deep sadness crossed her face. She said, I get it now. Thank you for this lesson. I sighed inwardly. She was a genius, but far too kind-hearted. Too much kindness in this world only invites greater evil. I did not want her turning into a cruel monster, but I definitely refused to let her become a victim. Thus bringing her outside to see the real world, realizing things are not just black and white, was the right call. 30 steps later, Lian stopped at a stall selling hairpins. She picked up a beautifully carved wooden pin, examining it with intense focus. A cheerful voice called out, nearby miss, come look. The hairpins here are just beautiful. Another voice replied, Cheon, slow down. I completely froze, wondering why that name sounded so familiar. Cheon. So why did it sound so familiar? Then it hit me. Cheon is the personal maid of Gorui, the original female lead of this entire novel. In the original plot, Gorui's mother came from the Jihan family, wealthy landowners over in the Luohao region. Many years ago, during a brutal famine and massive peasant uprising, a military general named Guoying was sent to crush the rebellion. There he fell for the Jihan family daughter, but duty suddenly called him away to fight the northern barbarians. By the time he returned, the Jihan family had vanished. He searched 17 years only to find a grave, but he eventually found his daughter Gorui. I instantly turned my head on pure instinct, and there she stood, a vibrant girl with skin pale as snow, her silky hair falling like a pitch-black waterfall. Her eyes resembled shimmering pools, her beauty incredibly delicate. She embodied the true female lead in every single detail. Her looks could genuinely rival Lian's beauty. No wonder all the male leads in the novel threw themselves right at her feet. I quietly looked away. In the original timeline, I was supposed to meet her 7 days after returning to the city, saving her from trouble inside the 1,000 gold pavilion. But I had already drastically altered the plot. I had stolen the treasures and golden opportunities meant for the original heroes. The guidebook inside my head was completely expired now. Maybe I should just toss it in the trash. Even though it was just a fleeting glance, Gorui seemed completely captivated by my appearance. I could clearly see the sheer surprise in her eyes. Right then, Lian asked the old woman running the stall, Auntie, How much for this wooden hairpin? The old woman replied 3 copper coins. Then she hesitated. Actually, 2 is fine. It is a bit expensive. Carefully carved, but just ordinary wood. No jewels or gold. Lian smiled. Here you go. She placed 3 coppers right in the woman's hand. Thank you so much, young miss. Thank you. Are these wooden combs for sale too? Lian asked, reaching toward a row of delicate little combs. And at that exact same moment, another hand reached for the very same comb. I rolled my eyes, of course. It is exactly the kind of cliché, repetitive drama the original author loved. Lian politely withdrew her hand. Go ahead, after you. She looked up, blinking in surprise at Guorui's stunning beauty. Even through the veil, Guorui could sense Lian's elegant, cold aura. She glanced at me, then looked right back at Lian. A strange flash of rivalry or unease flickered in her eyes. Then Guorui bowed politely and replied, no sister, you go ahead. Even though her family had fallen on incredibly hard times, her manners were totally flawless. Her maid Qian stood there confused, wondering why everyone suddenly went quiet. I broke the awkward silence, asking the old woman, Auntie, what about this comb here? I picked up a comb with a completely different texture. Instantly, the old woman's eyes brightened up. She said, sir, this is made of ox horn. It is more expensive, costing 1 silver ingot. I studied the comb. It felt as smooth as polished jade. The craftsmanship was truly incredible. Whoever made this comb poured their entire soul into it. The old woman continued, my 3rd son carved this. The old woman glowed with intense pride. I smiled, I will take it then. I pulled out some silver, quietly placing it into her palm. The old woman stammered, staring at the silver, sir, you gave me far too much. I answered with firm confidence, it is not much at all. This comb is worth every bit of that price. She thanked me deeply. Thank you so much, young master. I turned to Lian. Do you like it? I asked, placing the oxhorn comb into her small hands. Her eyes filled with sweet joy and obvious shyness. She nodded so enthusiastically, I thought her hairpins might actually hit the ground. She softly whispered, I love it so much. In almost all worlds, whether in the past or this one, gifting a comb always carries a deep and heavy meaning. It was a special vow, a promise to grow old together until our hair turned white. No wonder this naive girl was so moved. Meanwhile, Guorui stood aside, watching us in silence. Her fingers squeezed the edge of her sleeve tight. For some totally unknown reason, a strange emptiness gripped her heart. But a heavy, unexplainable feeling twisted her stomach. I smiled gently and told her it was time to leave. I didn't even bother giving Guorui a second glance. Lian gave her a graceful little nod goodbye, and then the 2 of us walked away from the stall together. My lady, my lady. Shun waved a hand right in Guorui's face, suddenly snapping her out of that stunned daze. The young master's already gone. Guorui mumbled softly, her eyes dropping to the ground. She looked genuinely heartbroken. From start to finish, that guy barely even looked at her once. Did you actually fall for him, my lady? Diyun asked with a sly, teasing smile. Guorui quickly denied it, but her entire face flushed bright crimson. That shy, gorgeous look made every guy walking past turn and stare. Guorui snapped, you wicked girl, you are making fun of me again. You need to be punished. Ow, be gentle, my lady, you'll bruise my cheeks. While they joked around, Shanhai walked past the stall, frowning in annoyance. He instantly recognized Guorui as Marquis Weiying's daughter. I had ordered him to watch. The subordinates, Jin Shu and Jin Lian, just stared at her in wide-eyed shock. They had never seen a woman so stunning. Except for their lady Lian. They were completely burning with jealousy right then. Walking down the street, Lian clearly wanted to say something, but she was forcing the words down. I actually couldn't help laughing. What is it? Still thinking about that girl back there? She stayed totally silent, her mind obviously spinning. Lian finally admitted in a soft whisper, yeah, I've never seen a girl that pretty before. She had this incredibly noble aura. She must belong to some massive, powerful family. Her tiny hands nervously fidgeted with her clothes. She rarely left the palace, but she constantly heard rumors about the 4 great beauties of Tianwu City. The grandpa always swore she was 1,000 times prettier than any of them, but deep down, she knew he was just trying to comfort her, because of her pale blue eyes. She carried a deep insecurity she could never shake. Seeing Guorui only multiplied that heavy feeling inside her. She couldn't help wondering, if you met Guorui first, would you pick me? Someone treated as a terrible bad omen. Grabbing her hand, I suddenly asked, are you absolutely sure this is your first time seeing someone that gorgeous? Lian quickly ducked her head. I wouldn't dare lie to you, your highness. You silly girl, my heart seriously ached for her. Do you never look in a mirror? Nasty rumors and society's harsh stares left deep scars on her heart. Now I had to fix that heavy damage. I caught her off guard. Lian, you're the most gorgeous person I've ever seen. Those eyes are the prettiest things I've ever witnessed. Past or present, you're my future princess. I will never let you talk yourself down again. My tone was strict and commanding, but my actions were incredibly gentle. Reaching under her white veil, I softly tapped the tip of her delicate nose. She tried pulling back, but I firmly gripped her hand, holding her in place. She felt completely mortified. She looked ready to bury her face in her chest. She protested pitifully, Your Highness, I'm really not an idiot. By the time we finally finished wandering around, it was way past noon. So, I took her to a restaurant I owned for lunch. I wasn't worried about her getting tired. People constantly underestimated her. Lian wasn't just some ordinary girl with pretty unique eyes. She was an actual martial arts expert inside the Hakshin realm. In the original storyline, she eventually becomes a terrifying military commander, completely capable of crushing an army of tens of thousands. So we grabbed a private room while Shanghai and the guards ate next door. Lian ate incredibly delicately, taking these tiny, completely silent bites. So watching her was honestly kind of frustrating. But since we had plenty of time, I never tried rushing her. I spent the whole meal peeling crab for her. Looking at the massive pile on her plate, she softly whispered, "Your Highness, I'm completely full." She looked just like a kid terrified of messing up. "Are you really full?" My hands stopped moving. She answered fast, "Yes, I really am." Her tone was desperate, terrified I wouldn't believe her. I shrugged. "All right then, I'm still starving." I reached over, pulling her plate toward me. In this strange world, resources weren't as endless as on Earth. Even with the high-yield crops I brought in, just one natural disaster could easily trigger a massive, horrific famine. I hated wasting food. Lian reached out to stop me. "Your Highness, don't, it's dirty." Her brain just couldn't process a royal prince casually eating her leftovers. Grabbing her trembling hand, I gave her a super gentle smile. "What's dirty about this? Think I'm disgusted by your saliva?" She stammered, "No. But you're a prince, how can you do that?" Her entire face instantly flushed, burning red. The poor girl didn't know what to answer first. I interrupted, "How can I what?" Before she finished, I pulled her into my arms and leaned in. Then I eagerly kissed her. After years of obsessing over her, I wasn't about to settle for just holding hands on some casual street walk. Lian's eyes shot wide open. Her whole body trembled as a weird heat flared up inside her. Her hands pressed hard against my chest on pure instinct. Then she slowly shut her eyes, totally giving in. And after one incredibly long moment, I finally let her pull away. I never cared about strict social rules or how a man and woman are supposed to act. I just kissed her, and once we are officially married, I plan on doing exactly that every single day. Lian looked totally dazed. Her lips glistened while she caught her breath in these cute, short gasps. Her face was so red it almost looked like it might bleed. She just leaned against my arms, completely drained of energy. I teased her, "You silly girl. 'Cause weren't you the one who asked me to taste your food?" She panicked, "Your Highness, I never meant it like that." Then she buried her red face into my shoulder. I didn't even let her finish. She whispered, "If any guards catch us, they will report you to the Emperor right away." She was not thinking about her own reputation. She was terrified for my status. I asked her quietly, "Do you hate me?" She whispered back so softly I would never dare. "How could I not understand your feelings?" I told her, "Lian, I missed you so much. I am sorry I made you wait so long." She rubbed her head against my chest. "I missed you too. As long as I live in your heart, I am happy." I hugged her tighter, my heart aching at how easily satisfied she was. Then a massive crash. Smashing furniture and loud screaming echoed from downstairs, completely ruining our perfect moment. My anger flared up instantly. Some scumbag was causing trouble in my restaurant. But worse, they just dared to interrupt my first real moment of closeness with my girl. I patted her head gently. "Just sit here and stay quiet. I will go down and see what is happening." She whispered, "Okay." Lian nodded obediently and whispered, "Please be careful, Your Highness." I gave her a reassuring smile, then finally stood up. The second I turned toward the door, my face shifted into dead, terrifying coldness. I stepped out into the wide hallway just as Shanghai and my two guards exited the next room. Shanghai greeted me low and "Ready for blood, Your Highness." I ordered them with a voice like winter ice, "Take down the two men causing that mess downstairs." They answered in unison, "Right away, sir." I walked slowly to the wooden railing and looked down at the main dining hall. Some guy in expensive silk robes was screaming his lungs out, faking absolute outrage just for attention. 20 silver taels for just one jug of wine. Do you think we are total idiots? The guy screamed, slamming his fist hard on the table. Meanwhile, the manager just held up the price menu, sighing with incredible patience. "Sir, all our prices are clearly written right here. As you can see, one jug of the premium wine is exactly 20 silver taels." The man roared, "This is a total scam." He spun toward the crowd forming by the entrance and yelled, "Look everyone, this Zoosian restaurant is just a greedy, shameless trap. They are robbing people in broad daylight." His buddy joined in right after, shouting at the street to drag in more random people passing by. Folks back then lacked entertainment anyway. A loud public brawl was honestly better than front row seats to a play. In seconds, a massive crowd of nosy onlookers gathered, pointing and whispering. I just watched from upstairs while the poor manager shook his head. I could practically hear the thoughts spinning inside his head. Is this the brutal business warfare my boss warned me about? Instead of improving your own brand, you just drag your rival through the dirt. Well, it seems my manager has a pretty solid memory. He instantly recognized the guy in the fancy silk. That was the brother-in-law of the Dingfu restaurant manager, located just one street over. These two idiots had terrible luck. Out of all the days to pull a cheap stunt, they picked the one afternoon I was actually here. They were practically begging for death. The manager locked eyes with me for a split second. Then Zhang Hai and the guards moved like lightning. They vaulted down the stairs, brutally kicking both men to the floor before they even realized what hit them. The silk-wearing man slammed into the floor. He opened his mouth to curse, but Zhang Hai crushed a heavy boot against his jaw first. The blood sprayed as a dozen teeth scattered across the floorboards. Zhang Hai barked, "Do you have a spare head to lose? How dare you bother His Highness during his meal?" Zhang Hai snarled, drawing his long sword with a terrifying metallic scrape that echoed everywhere. His body completely froze, the cold steel pressing right up against his throat. He barely even breathed. That was when I slowly walked down the stairs. The moment they saw me, the crowd outside gasped. "Such a handsome young master. Wait, is that Prince Chu? No way. The prince himself is here?" The manager rushed over, bowing deeply, "Your Highness." He quickly started explaining everything, even though I already knew the whole story. "Dingfu Restaurant." I repeated the name slowly, putting it together right. "I remember now. Isn't that place owned by my fourth brother?" "Yeah, Dingfu Restaurant belonged to Shunjing Yu, the Prince of Song. I gave a calm order, drag these two losers straight to the capital governor right now. Make absolutely sure you drop my name when you hand them in." The manager just froze. I was publicly slapping the Prince of Song across the face for everyone to see. I turned to the manager. "You know exactly what to do next, right?" He nodded. "I understand. I am fully tracking, sir." The manager answered back with serious enthusiasm. He knew that letting this scandal slide would absolutely ruin our restaurant's reputation. His real job now was simple public relations. He would spend some cash, ride the hype, and flip this whole mess into a massive free ad campaign for Zuotian Restaurant. I raised an eyebrow, honestly impressed. He was actually using those modern marketing tricks I taught him. Perfect. I told him to keep going and stop worrying about Prince Song. I would handle him myself. The entire circus was probably just some stupid idea from the manager of Dingfu Restaurant. My brother wasn't attacking directly yet, but this gave me the absolute perfect excuse to meet Shen Jingguo outside the palace. With my backing, the manager went into overdrive. He announced that anyone eating right now was getting their entire meal for free. They started handing out fruit to the crowd outside, even dragging out 2 massive jugs of premium wine for free tasting. By the time the street guards finally dragged the troublemakers away, the whole vibe had flipped from a messy scandal to a full-blown party. I led Shanghai and the others back upstairs to finish up my work. Meanwhile, over at Prince Song's estate, things were going downhill fast. Kai, the manager of Dingfu Restaurant, rushed over to the capital's provincial office to bail out his brother-in-law, Ning Er. The officials there kicked him out instantly, with just one line, "Your brother-in-law insulted Prince Chu." Kai felt the entire world spinning around him. He just collapsed onto the ground. Back at the restaurant, his wife started screaming and crying, demanding he save her brother right then. Out of options, he went to beg his master. "Your Highness." Shen Kai knelt in the courtyard, his voice shaking with absolute terror. Inside the hall, Shen Jingguo was wearing gold-plated finger guards. He held a slice of raw meat high in the air. Suddenly, an ink-black bird darted from its cage and snatched the meat. "Good boy," Shen Jingguo smiled, gently stroking the crossbill bird right on its head. The bird let out a harsh shriek that made Shen Kai shiver in the dirt outside. Shen Jingguo finally turned to look. "So, how long has he been kneeling there?" A maid whispered, "Half an hour, Your Highness." "It is late. Go prepare dinner," he said, completely ignoring the man kneeling outside. When the sun came up the next morning, he asked, "Is he dead?" Then Jingguo asked while a maid helped him get dressed. "I do not think so, my lord," she stammered in reply. Out in the courtyard, Shen Kai forced his bloodshot eyes open. Seeing Shen Jingguo walk toward him, he tried to speak, but his lips were completely cracked and dry. His voice sounded exactly like that black bird. "Bring him inside," Shen Jingguo ordered firmly. He sat on his throne, rolling jade beads between his fingers. 2 guards dragged Shen Kai inside and forced his mouth open. They poured a scoop of water down his throat so he wouldn't die right then and there. Shen Jingguo said quietly, "Do you know what mistake you made?" "I know, Your Highness. Please have mercy on me." Shen Kai crawled forward, slamming his head hard against the floor. A sharp clink, a gold finger guard dropped in front of him. He just stared at it, totally confused. "It is yours," Shen Jingguo said with a chilling smile. Shen Kai didn't dare refuse. He grabbed the gold piece with shaking hands. He knew his master well. If he refused the gift, whatever came next would be much worse. "I always heard one of my 3 older brothers was behind Zuotian Restaurant." Shen Jingguo muttered this to himself. "I never expected it to be my sweet younger brother who vanished for 5 years. Old Sixth, you really never stop surprising me. How very interesting." He looked down at the manager. "Shen Kai, your brother-in-law is the accountant for Dingfu, right?" Yes, Your Highness." He called for Wu Xinju, and a polite, elegant man in light robes stepped forward. "Go with him to the capital office." Joy flooded Shen Kai's heart. He bowed until his head slammed the floor again. The guards carried him outside, following the elegant Wu. "Prep the carriage," Shen Jingguo ordered instantly. "We are heading to Prince Chu's estate." I wasn't surprised at all to hear he had arrived. "Fourth brother." That's how I greeted him walking in. "Sixth brother." Congratulations, Shen Jingguo said, his voice soft and magnetic. He sounded genuinely happy for me. I heard you're finally marrying your lady. I brought a few small gifts. Please don't refuse them. Guards opened a wooden box. Inside was an 8-piece jewelry set, rings, earrings, and bracelets, all forged from pure gold and inlaid with priceless jade. It was truly dazzling. Thank you, fourth brother, I said, waving for my servants to take them. I gave him a very natural smile. Among all the princes, he was easily the richest. His mother, consort Xiao, came from the wealthiest family in Gusu. When the emperor rebuilt the capital years ago, the Xiao family basically covered most of the cost. They were literal royalty in everything but the actual title. I heard there were assassins here last night, Shen Jingguo said, folding his hands right behind his back. I really hope you were not hurt. I walked through the courtyard, glancing around at the stone walls and pathways. Even though my servants had cleaned up, the scars of that violent struggle were still visible. Chipped masonry and dark stains told the story of what went down last night. Don't mind this mess, fourth brother, I said with a bitter, exhausted smile. I made absolutely sure to look like a man who barely escaped with his life. My survival was pure luck, but my men paid the highest price. Their casualties were absolutely countless. Zhen Jingyu examined the scale of destruction around us, his expression softening with pity. Then he mentioned he actually knew the merchants of Yihang Market quite personally. He added that a fresh batch of barbarian mercenaries had just arrived. If you need any extra guards, sixth brother, I could easily arrange that for you. I gently shook my head, telling him I truly appreciated the offer, but my mansion is too small. I doubt I have any room to accommodate more. Shen Jingyu sighed with genuine regret, pointing out that Tianwu City has really been lacking peace lately. He warned me to stay extremely careful. I thanked him, promising to always keep my eyes open. We walked to the pavilion and sat down there. I gestured for the servants to bring the exact same tea and snacks I had served Shan Tongfeng a few days ago. Shen Jingyu took a sip and his eyes suddenly lit up. He praised the tea's wonderful flavor. I smiled and suggested he take some back to his mansion. He laughed aloud, replying he wouldn't pretend to be shy then. He leaned back thoughtfully, his gaze wandering toward the distant horizon, to let out a long, heavy sigh. Then he turned to confess that he sometimes envies me, and fifth brother, sixth brother. I set my cup down with a light laugh. I asked how when one of us is getting married soon, while the other spends his days wandering aimlessly. Concubine Xiao pressuring you to marry again? He sighed heavily once more. Unfortunately, his complete silence was the only answer I really needed. I raised an eyebrow. Did fourth brother already have a specific girl in mind? I silently wondered if he had already crossed paths with Guruye. According to the original plot, he was actually the first to meet her, followed right after by Shan Tongfeng. They spent dozens of chapters circling each other before they finally got together at the 100 Flowers Festival for an official meeting. Then Jingyu shook his head with a faint smile. He said no, he truly believes things are absolutely perfect, exactly as they are right now. I returned his smile, keeping my thoughts to myself. I almost entirely forgot his personality. He truly was the ultimate eternal bachelor. To a man like him, women were just annoying obstacles slowing his career. His mother's constant nagging only brought him more frustration and distress. In the original plot, without Guruye's sudden appearance, folks would have secretly whispered he preferred the company of men. So we chatted aimlessly for a while. Then the conversation slowly shifted toward business affairs and court politics. Suddenly Shen Jingyu reached out and grabbed my hand tightly. My heart practically jumped in panic. Is the plot really changing this much? Does he actually have those preferences now? He leaned in, calling me sixth brother. He smiled, but his gaze held a strange, unsettling intensity. It gave me chills. He came today to apologize to me personally, completely aside from his congratulations. I played entirely dumb and asked what he meant, fourth brother. With an awkward laugh, I told him I truly didn't understand. He leaned his face closer, clarifying he meant that incident at Zhuxian restaurant. Then he started explaining absolutely everything that went down there after I left. The capital's governor knew perfectly well he couldn't afford to anger either side, so he simply imposed a massive financial fine. He sent the money straight to my mansion. As for manager Qian Kai, he was released immediately once the required ransom was finally paid. Qian Kai's brother-in-law, Ninger, was left in a truly pathetic state. His face was completely swollen like a pig's head. Missing all his teeth, he could only make annoying whistling sounds while crying bitterly to his brother-in-law. So while being escorted out by guard Wu Qian Kai, noticed they were taking a winding path through a completely abandoned alley surrounded by towering high walls. Qian Kai stuttered, his legs still trembling in absolute terror. He fearfully asked Mr. Wu if this was actually the right way back to Dingfu restaurant. The Wu turned slowly. His eyes were cold and absolutely terrifying. Before Ninger or that other lackey could even process it, Wu's massive hands clamped down hard onto their heads. He pressed straight down, creating a totally sickening, crushing sound. Qian Kai watched in pure horror as his brother-in-law's head was completely smashed into his chest cavity. Then two headless bodies slumped weakly onto the ground. Dan Kai tried to scream out loud, but his throat completely betrayed him. Wu took out a silk handkerchief to calmly wipe his hands, then softly whispered for him to remember this well. So your brother-in-law and that waiter both died inside the capital's prison cell. Back in the present, Shen Jingyu stood ready to leave. I quietly watched him walk away for a long time. My guard Mindu whispered, "Your Highness," snapping me from my thoughts. He said Prince Song had already left. Exhaling sharply, the corner of my mouth twitched into a faint smile. The fourth brother certainly has a lavish style. Beside me, Mindu just looked totally confused. Fifth prince didn't bring a single thing yet. Fourth prince gifted 8 full sets of gold jewelry. That is incredibly lavish. I slowly turned toward him. Mindu grabbed the estate's accountant and head straight to Dingfu Restaurant in the North Market. Finish the handover process there. That place officially belongs to us now. Oh, what? Mindu blinked in disbelief. Dingfu Restaurant is incredibly famous here. How did it become ours so fast? I ordered him not to just stand there. Leave right now. As Mindu hurried off, I looked back toward the direction where Shen Jingyu had vanished. He didn't just hand me some simple gold jewelry. He practically handed me a literal gold mine. This was clearly a test. He wanted to see if my iron grip was strong enough to hold on to such a heavy, dangerous gift. He also wanted to watch the other factions react. The Song estate, the Xiao family. To consort Xiao, they formed a tangled, incredibly dangerous spiderweb. Shen Juan never wanted power, he just wanted his freedom. The Xiao family kept him locked up like a caged bird for years. And now he was ready to spread his wings, he just needed a hand to rip that cursed cage open. That suited me just fine. I still had some old debts to settle with the Xiao family anyway. Unlike befriending that reckless Shen Tufan, I much preferred making deals with a loaded guy like Prince Song. When you help him out, he pays incredibly well. Your Highness, Enzi is back. I headed straight to my study where Fuxing and Enzi were waiting. Did you handle the old dog? I asked. Enzi bowed, answering roughly, reporting to Your Highness. Northern Elder was intercepted and killed 20 miles west of Tianmen Pass. I nodded. Enzi was incredibly efficient. Unless he faced a mythical immortal like Luo Yingxuan, killing a high-level expert was practically effortless for him. Still, that elder was the left protector of the demon sect. It wouldn't take long to name a replacement. The demon sect was now an official religion in the neighboring kingdoms. After years of hiding, their strength had become absolutely massive. They were just waiting for their sect master to reach the divine realm before marching on the Great Qin Empire. I asked if Evernight City made any moves after his death. The demon sect keeps soul lamps for its core members. The moment someone dies, their lamp goes out. They definitely knew the exact second he took his last breath. The bells in Evernight City rang 3 times. Your Highness, 3 rings. Are they really calling a grand assembly? I just laughed coldly. Tell the Silver Tigers to return and await orders. And Fuxing head straight to Southeast Sword Lake. Both men froze. I just laughed at the utter shock on their faces. Don't overthink it, Tianwu City is getting way more dangerous. I need a proper weapon to protect myself. Take this with you. The sword will follow you the second it sees it. I reached out, and an empty scabbard flew off the shelf into my grip. Oh, and give my regards to that old man who's always fishing. Ask him if he went home empty-handed again today. Fuxing took the scabbard, a rare wave of emotion crossing his usually blank face. Consider it done. Once he left, I leaned back in my chair. That old dog was dead. The demon sect would pick a new protector and send other people to finish that cursed mission. I couldn't corner them just yet, but I couldn't let them hide either. It was better to hunt them down one by one, like a steady, methodical harvest. I flicked my folding fan open, feeling the faint killing intent still lingering on it. If I took that elder's head to the black market, I could have traded it for a mountain of gold. Outside, the wind lightly rustled the pomegranate leaves. Autumn was only 3 months away, and I knew that once it arrived, the real storms would begin. Northern barbarians were getting restless again. My rival, Shun Jinyu, felt the need to play the handsome son-in-law and help out his wife's father. He shut his fan, bored with the day's usual tasks. He just gave the whole Dingfu building to me. The subordinate Wu couldn't understand why he gave away the building for free. Shun Jinyu hated being questioned. He turned slowly, letting a blood-red crow land right on his shoulder. He reminded Wu he had taught him more than any scholar ever could. Then, in a flash of pure pressure, Wu felt his throat being ripped apart. It was a terrifying illusion, a near-perfect technique that made him feel death itself. Shun Jinyu was sending a warning. It wasn't just some prince, he was a predator. Shun Jinyu watched the horizon, thinking about his brothers. The crown prince, Shen Muchen, was a cultivation genius who reached the Freedom Realm at 16. Then there was Prince Jin, Shen Jun, a seasoned general commanding 10,000 elite cavalry. Shun Jinyu wanted way more than just a small family alliance. He offered Wu a chance to serve on a much larger stage. Heart-pounding, Wu dropped to his knees, swearing absolute loyalty. But while they schemed, I enjoyed my own peace. For 3 whole days, I successfully played the sick card. I told everyone the assassins rattled my soul, making me too weak for court or the academy. And it worked perfectly. I spent my time with my naive girl, Yili Yan. Whenever the sun was out, we went hunting or fishing. But when it rained, we stayed in the study, drinking tea and listening to music. I told her stories from my old world, tweaked to fit this one. I wanted to teach her just how complicated the human heart could be through these tales. The rumors surrounding her were finally fading, so I pulled back some of my guards. As for the Dingfu building, the old manager had already fled the city. I was in no rush to reopen it. I wanted to renovate it into a hot pot restaurant first. After that, Mandu brought me a letter. It was an invitation from Du Danming, the son of Duke Anga. I remembered him as a chubby little kid who was scared to death of bugs. Since it was an official academy holiday, the young nobles were currently gathering on a luxury flower boat floating down the Luo River. A classic high society scene, poetry, wine, and excessive showing off. Dunming was a true brother. I could not refuse him. Plus, I really wanted to bring Lian along. She was extremely shy and needed to get used to high society. I wanted everyone to see her. I wanted them to know her real identity. The war god's granddaughter, General Yi's daughter, and my future princess. I headed to the Yi manor. Old General Yi was away, so the old butler Fu let me right in. I felt more at home there than in my own palace. When I mentioned the party, Li Yan panicked. She was terrified of embarrassing me. I simply laughed, told her I never planned to leave her stuck inside. Before she could protest, I scooped her up like a princess. Figured I might need some practice for our upcoming wedding night. Her face turned bright red. She curled into my chest, her tiny hands gripping my robes tightly. Jinyue and Jinlin were laughing like crazy. I had Jinyue fetch her a veil and we left. The Luo River was stunning. There's a huge canal cutting right through Tianwu City, lined with shops and packed with massive luxury flower boats. The air was thick with music and laughter. But stepping out of the carriage, sudden regret hit me. Boats were packed with beautiful dancers in revealing clothes swaying in the wind. If Lian saw this scene, she might think I was some degenerate prince who spent all his time here. I realized I would need to do a lot of explaining. I blamed Du Dunming. Why not suggest a simple tea house? Now I had to fight to keep my reputation completely spotless. "Be careful, Lian," I whispered, turning to help her down. Even with the veil covering her face, her gaze was incredibly sharp. She immediately noticed the flower boats lined up on the Luo River. Seeing the courtesans and wild water parties clearly shocked her. She quickly looked away, cheeks flushed. She quietly asked, "Your Highness, do you come here often?" Cold sweat dripped down my back. This was exactly what I feared. I quickly explained Du Dunming and his crew are always here. But I was away for 5 years. I have not visited these places since leaving. I was not lying either. I had boarded flower boats before, but mostly to track a target or gather info. I never set foot on Luo River pleasure boats for fun. Lian looked secretly relieved, but then she lowered her eyes and spoke in an apologetic tone. "I am sorry, Your Highness. I never should have asked such a rude question." Squeezing her hand, I told her I knew what she was thinking. "Do not worry, I am not that kind of man." I said it with total pride. In both lives I stayed completely pure. Even while wandering the world, my heart stayed focused entirely on my martial arts training. To me, women were just distractions on the path to power. But Lian was no distraction. She is my wife. She said she believed me. That sentence alone brought a strange wave of guilt. This girl was far too innocent. I had to protect her, or someone would definitely exploit her. We walked toward the riverbank where Du Dunming waited. I left Jinyue and 2 guards with the carriage. Lian's joined me in a small boat, while Zhonghai followed in another. Sailed toward the largest flower boat, their Manhua Pavilion. As we approached, the dancers on deck noticed me. They started swaying and waving for my attention. One shouted, "Hey handsome, come have fun with us." "Ignore her and come to me instead," another one laughed. I felt Lian's tiny grip tighten instantly. I figured she wished she brought her instrument from the library just to play a tune loud enough to shut those voices up instantly. As our boat got closer, several courtesans reached out their silk-covered arms to help me aboard. Suddenly, a dark shadow flashed by. Zhonghai leaped onto the deck, forcing the women back with an ice-cold glare. They all screamed in total surprise. Zhonghai turned and cleared the way. He spoke with deep respect, "Young master. It was smart enough to change my title here." I nodded, wrapped my arm around Lian's waist, and used a light movement technique to leap onto the deck. "I am so sorry, gentlemen." A seductive voice drifted into our ears before we could even see the speaker. "This boat is already booked by some young nobles today. We're not taking any other guests." A strong perfume hit us, completely overpowering the cheap scents of the other girls. A curvy woman in her early 30s swayed toward us. This was Huan Yang, the lady of the boat. She was in her prime, every movement dripping with extreme charm and allure. Any weak-willed man would lose his mind and his entire wallet the second he laid eyes on her. She raised her silk sleeve to the wind, pretending to trip right into Zhonghai's arms. A weapon clinked. Zhonghai never blinked. He kept his sword sheathed, but used the hilt to shove her backward with brutal force. Huan Yang clutched her stomach, totally shocked and hurting. She glared at Zhonghai's blank face, just a stubborn soldier. She turned. Lian caught her eye first. Even bundled up in a veil, that elegant, noble aura was completely impossible to hide. Huan Yang likely guessed she was noble. Then she looked at me. She noticed my posture, the clear authority in my eyes, and the flash of gold. Imperial royalty. That thought must have struck her like lightning. Begging my pardon, she called me young master. Her face quickly morphed into a massive, bright smile. Asking for an invitation, I just said yes. I signaled Zhang Hai to hand over the card. Huan Yang didn't even check it. She instantly started barking orders at the other girls to make way for the guests. She told us to follow. Manhua Pavilion was a true giant, standing 4 stories tall. Floor 1 had a massive stage. Floor 2 held private booths. Floor 3 was strictly VIP. And the 4th floor was packed with bedrooms for overnight guests. Climbing the stairs to the 3rd floor, I heard music playing and loud laughter. Huan Yang knocked 3 times on the door. Dead silence. Someone inside yelled, asking who it was. Dunming's deep voice boomed out. Huan Yang called back loudly, Mr. Du, your guest has finally arrived. The wooden floorboards groaned under heavy steps. The door swung wide. A huge shadow fell over us. I looked up, blinking. An absolute giant stood there. He yelled out, brother, no prince. I missed you. Before I could reply, Du Dunming trapped me in a bear hug, lifting me completely off the floor. I gasped his name in shock. When I left Tianwu City, this guy was just a short, chubby ball. 5 years later, a literal mountain. He was so huge he barely fit the door. A pure monster. Even chugging growth hormones wouldn't explain this crazy physical transformation. He kept crying about how much he missed his brother. He held me like a toy in his left arm, wiping snot with his right. I awkwardly demanded he put me down. Apologizing, he dropped me with a shy, embarrassed smile. So Huan Yang watched him, fear still lingering in her eyes. She was lucky this guy wasn't aggressive, or her girls would have been completely crushed. To wishing us a good time, she flicked her silk scarf in Zhonghai's face as she left, leaving a perfume trail. Looking closely at Lian, Du Dunming curiously asked, brother, who exactly is this? Smiling, I held Lian's hand and said she was my little follower. He quickly invited us inside, complaining the wind was too strong. We stepped inside. Zhonghai shut the doors behind us, standing guard like a statue. Inside, a group of young nobles and ladies immediately stood to bow and greet Prince Chu. I told them to drop the formalities. Every time this happens, I feel like a CEO entering a board meeting. Then a pale, scholarly young man quietly called me brother. Stunned, I paused. Qingzhang. This was Du Qingzhang, Duanguo's actual second son. Giving me a warm, gentle smile, he confirmed it really was him. I admitted they had both changed a lot. One was a ball of fat, the other a skinny kid looking like a monkey. Now, completely different people, totally unrecognizable. With their dad being a famous general, I assumed Qingzhang was a tank too. The old duke saw them now, he would laugh in his sleep. After greetings, everyone's curious eyes shifted right to Lian. They were all dying to know the identity of the girl holding the prince's hand. Du Dunming told me to sit, leading me to the main seat. Once seated, I patted Dunming's massive shoulder. I couldn't help asking seriously, what the hell happened to you? And I asked Qingzhang how he changed so much in just a few years. Dunming laughed, saying he got thrown into Uncle Yi's training camp. Meanwhile, my younger brother was studying at the academy under Master Hao. I noticed Lian's tiny hands squeezing mine really hard. Once he mentioned Uncle Yi, there weren't many Yi families in Tianwu City, so she knew exactly who he meant. You actually went to the battlefield? I asked him multiple times. Pushing his chest out proudly, Dunming replied he even chopped off a few barbarian heads. Then he looked around, directly challenging everyone else. How many people here could actually say they killed an enemy on the front lines? Raising my glass, I told him that was impressive. I told him I would drink to that. My brother thanked me. We downed our drinks at once, and wiping my mouth, I continued. Uncle Yi still holding up? He answered he was in excellent shape. Dunming made a pained face, saying if he was weak, he would lack the strength to beat me whenever I mess up. He completely blamed his dad for giving Yi permission to discipline him. Whenever he crossed the line, that guy showed absolutely no mercy. The entire room instantly erupted into laughter. So even the usually reserved Lian lowered her head just to hide a soft giggle. Leaning in, his huge face was full of mischief. By the way, brother, I hear you're marrying Sister Yi. Du and Yi families were incredibly close, but the brothers had only seen Lian a handful of times. Their one lingering memory, those stunning, pale blue eyes. Set my glass down with a slight smile. Yeah, I am. Is that a problem? Chongzhang patted his brother Duning on the shoulder, pointing at Lian. Duning just stared, eyes wide with pure shock. Duning whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, bro, his little follower is actually gorgeous. Chongzhang sighed and slapped his brother on the back, call her sister-in-law. What, sister-in-law? Duning rubbed his head, still totally lost. I turned to Lian with a gentle smile, giving her hand a firm squeeze. To Lian, why not take off the veil? The room went dead silent. Everyone held their breath, their eyes locked entirely on her. Lian looked at me, finding clear encouragement. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she reached up. The white silk dropped slowly to her lap, revealing a face of totally unmatched beauty to the world. Those striking, pale blue eyes looked like they held the stars and the moon deep inside them. The silence stretched as everyone drew a sharp breath. She was so incredibly stunning that the other noble ladies felt a sudden wave of insecurity. The rumors were true. The girl from Jinghua Manor really was like a goddess descended into the mortal world. Lian sat tall. She did not hide from their intense stares. Instead, she met their eyes, one by one. She was my future princess. She knew perfectly well that showing any weakness would only mock my family name. Her knuckles went white from gripping her dress, but she didn't back down. She was fighting that inner fear just for me. She was so incredibly brave it actually made my heart ache. I cleared my throat loudly, snapping everyone right out of their daze. Let me introduce her. This is my future princess, daughter of the Northern General, Lady Yili Yan. She quietly offered her greetings to everyone. Her voice was calm and elegant, just like a rare flower blooming on a high peak. Gorgeous to look at, but absolutely impossible to touch. I am Pingmu, son of Marquis Lucheng. So greetings, Lady Yi, one young man said, standing up quickly. The room was instantly filled with a chorus of polite greetings and bows. Mr. Ye? Dunning grabbed his head with both hands, face locked in pure shock. Chongjiang sighed again at his brother being so slow. Lian nodded, her tone softening just a bit. It has been a long time, young Master Du. She didn't have many childhood friends, so she remembered the Du brothers perfectly. Just like me, I was actually surprised by how much they had changed. Sister Yi. No, wait, sister-in-law. Ah, Sister Yi. Dunning was so flustered he could barely string his words together. I patted his back, just call her sister-in-law. Leon's ears turned bright red at that. She looked ready to punch me with those tiny fists. I was forcing people to call her that before we even officially tied the knot. She was clearly dying of embarrassment. All right then. Greetings, sister-in-law, Dunning shouted with a booming laugh. Tongjiang offered a formal bow greetings, sister-in-law. Lian quickly replied, you are too kind, please just call me Lian. As we finally sat down at the table, the vibe got a little more stiff and formal. The young princes wanting to show off suddenly felt entirely too shy. The party broke into smaller groups, ladies whispering as they stole glances at us. The brothers kept bothering me, demanding stories from the 5 long years I was away. Dunning drank heavily, bragging about battles while the others listened like eager students. To them, I was a window into a world they had never seen. They were like little eagles trapped in a gilded cage, waiting for their fathers to let them fly in a carefully painted sky. The outside world was interesting, sure, but Tianwu City was an entirely different kind of battlefield. They craved the horizon, totally clueless about how many people die just to stand right where they are now. The party wound down, a visibly drunk Dunning grabbed my arm. His face was flushed. Bro, next time you head out, take me with you. I want to see the world too, don't leave me behind. I am strong, man, I could be your guard, or even carry your bags. I laughed all right, but don't regret it later. The world isn't all fun and games. He stammered, I won't, just don't ditch me. Chongjiang helped his brother up, looking apologetic. Sorry, man. He has loved drinking way too much since coming back from the north. I brushed it off, it is fine. The north is freezing, so wine is a necessity. Besides, I actually admire his honesty. So we walked outside. The wind blew across the river, creating shiny golden ripples beneath the lights. The room behind us was a total disaster of leftover food and empty bottles. Lian asked quietly, did you have fun today? She nodded. Today was about building her reputation and meeting people her own age, and she was really happy. Her veil was folded away now. This was the very first time she made friends who weren't her own servants. She got compliments and made shopping plans, feeling like she was in a beautiful dream. I teased her, well, you promised to go, so no backing out now. Backing out? Lian tilted her head, looking totally confused by the slang. Ah, I awkwardly started trying to explain what it meant. That means breaking a date or going back on a promise, I explained. Lian nodded, her eyes going wide with total understanding. Lian just learned something new. As for me, I'd never break my promise. A faint blush hit her cheeks, her voice dropping to a shy whisper. I actually felt pretty awkward then. I probably just taught her slang she shouldn't use in high society. Clearing my throat, I said it was late and we should head back. So before she could even react, I leaned in and kissed her cheek. That pale pink on her face instantly flared into a burning crimson. She gasped, calling me your highness, totally caught off guard. Dripping with shyness, she looked a bit dazed from the sudden affection, telling me I was a terrible person. You always attack when I'm not ready. What if someone saw us? It isn't proper. Despite those words, she couldn't hide the joy dancing in her eyes. She looked totally flustered. Her thoughts raced so fast, I thought her head might actually overheat. But finally, all that nervous energy turned into a weak little punch against my chest. Pausing for 2 whole seconds, the air between us went totally still. Then she suddenly looked up, leaned in fast, and pressed her lips gently to my cheek. A fleeting touch, somehow cold and soft at once, before she pulled away. I froze, touching my face where a faint dampness lingered. I was only teasing her, but she actually counterattacked. By the time I looked over, Lian had already lowered her veil, slyly pulling the brim of her hat down with both hands. Looking just like a little kid who got caught doing something really bad. That clumsy, adorable attempt to hide her face hit me right in the heart. Smiling, I reached out and casually grabbed her tiny hand, telling her let's go. She didn't say a single word, just making a tiny hum to agree. Outside, the sky was painted in gold and gray, the sunset turning the river into a glittering golden canvas. Donghai stood by the boat, long blade resting at his waist. In that dim light, his silhouette looked like a legendary general preparing for an epic battle. Even the experienced women from the pleasure boats couldn't help but steal a few glances at him. Too bad he has the personality of a literal stone statue. Opening the door, I led Lian outside. Young Master Zhonghai and the boat owner both greeted us at the exact same moment. Time to go, I said. Our boat drifted away as she waved her silk scarf. Safe travels, young master, she called out sweetly. She was smart enough to skip the usual, come back soon shout while I accompanied a lady. She loves customers like us, big spenders who stay polite and never cause trouble. As I headed home, far off in the southeast, lay the holy land of swordsmen, Southeast Sword Lake. The legend says this place was an ancient battlefield from another world. An absolutely peerless immortal swordsman once claimed it as his home. Eventually, he rode his sword toward the east and never came back. Later on, a blacksmith clan moved in, finding the rare ores they had always craved. They stayed there for many generations, their forged weapons filling all the surrounding plains. Then a massive flood swept in from the east, drowning absolutely everything. The whole clan vanished, but their swords remained underwater. Centuries later, a wandering scholar fell in. Villagers pulled him out gripping a rusty iron sword. Out of curiosity, local kids dove down to explore, only to find the lakebed totally paved with countless swords. And no matter how hard they pulled, not a single blade would even budge. The scholar totally lost his mind. He ditched his exams and sat by the lake every single day, just cradling that rusty blade. Years passed until one day he stood up, laughing at the sky. He screamed that the green lotus glows in the eye, and 3,000 worlds exist within one blade. I understand. I finally get it. Eyewitnesses claimed 1,000 swords suddenly rang out in the air. The green lotuses actually bloomed across the water. The scholar in green stepped onto his sword and flew east, exactly like the legend before him. He later became known as the immortal poem swordsman, Chufenga. Because of him, thousands of swordsmen flocked here, turning this lake into a pilgrimage site. Now at dusk, the sun left only a blood-red streak on the horizon. Thick fog rolled in over the water. At the end of a wooden pier, a hunched old man sat holding a bamboo fishing rod. Splash! The old man's withered eyes opened. His shriveled hand yanked the rod hard, sending a fat carp flying out from underwater. "You don't look like a swordsman," the old man muttered, unhooking the fish and tossing it back into the lake. "Why are you here?" The fiend replied he came for a sword, bowing deeply while clutching an empty scabbard. "To take a sword, you jump in and get it yourself. Why bother me?" The old man paused, frowning, his voice freezing cold. "Wait, you smell exactly like that brat. You are here for his sword." Fying said yes, damn it. The old man exploded, jumping up and losing all his mysterious expert calm. Pointing at Fu Ying, he screamed that little punk drained the entire lake to feed his shattered blade. "Do you have any idea what kind of disaster that thing caused?" Fu Ying quietly took a step back, mostly just to dodge the flying spit. The old man's face instantly turned grim. His cloudy eyes flared with sharp brilliance. He gripped the bamboo pole with both hands, muscles bulging. "Damn it. After all that waiting, you finally took the bait." The massive lake started thrashing. A giant whirlpool formed, sending violent waves crashing into the wooden pier. Something terrifying was rising from the pitch-black depths. "Get out here," the old man roared. His energy exploded, his body bulged, and the bamboo pole bent into a violent arch. The pole creaked, but held on. Boom, a 100-meter wall of water blasted into the sky straight out of the whirlpool. The roar, completely unlike any living animal, shook the entire ground. Birds scattered, leaving the forest in dead silence. As the water crashed down, Fu Ying's eyes went wide. Reflected in his pupils, a massive 5-clawed black dragon coiling high above. A dragon, a literal creature from ancient myths. But looking closer, he instantly realized this thing wasn't made of flesh and blood. The scabbard in his hand started shaking violently, practically resonating with that creature. This was the prince's sword. The black dragon then unleashed a terrifying, furious roar at the old man. Then its massive body condensed, shrinking down into a 3-foot sword hovering in midair. "Damn you, you monster," the old man screamed, swearing he'd completely destroy it today. The old man yanked the fishing line, wrapped around the hilt, pulling the sword toward him. Suddenly, he snapped his head toward the forest. Trying to hide, he roared, eyes blazing with pure fury. He twisted the bottom of his fishing pole, sliding out a thin blade hidden inside it. With one strike, a massive wave of green sword energy shredded the pier, exploding straight into the shadows.